Chapter 249. The next day, after class, the girls who were familiar with Noah gathered around Noah. Especially Ivanli, who was sitting in front of Noah. He seemed to have forgotten the matter of him storming out in anger in front of Noah yesterday. He moved his face closer to Noah and said with great surprise, "You've really risen to level 3. Julie, whose face was still emotionless, making it hard to tell if yesterday's venting had any effect on her anger, and Tachibana and Nya, who were somewhat evasive because of yesterday's matter, all converged their gazes on Noah. Not to mention Ivanli, Julie, Tachibana and Nya, even the rest of the students cast their gazes on Noah's direction. Their eyes were filled with envy and amazement. Did he really rise to level 3? How long has it been since he left school? Undoubtedly, there are still many of us who are only at level 1. In the class just now, Yu Jinli, who was acting cute as usual, made a high-profile announcement as soon as class started. She announced that Noah had successfully risen to level 3. According to Yu Jinli, not long ago, Noah had pulled out an outlaw who had infiltrated the school and received high praise from the chairman. Therefore, the chairman specially gave Noah a chance to use the ascension instrument. Under this half-truth announcement, the news that Noah had successfully risen to level 3 was immediately known to the whole class, which led to such a situation. However, it was no wonder that everyone was so surprised. After all, in the school, every year students must successfully obtain an ascension instrument within a year to be promoted to the next year. Otherwise, they would be expelled. And Noah, who had successfully risen to level 3, was equivalent to obtaining the qualifications to be promoted to the 3rd year of the school. As long as he honestly studied in the school, he would be able to smoothly welcome graduation after 3 years and enter the Dawn organization to work. How could the students not be surprised and envious? It should be noted that other than Ivanli, Julie, Tachiba, Yujua Totaru, and Yuta Totaru, and a few other students who obtained good results in the new blade battle and were promoted to level 2, the rest of the students were still level 1. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for Noah, who was not only the strongest among the first years, but also the one with the highest rank, not to attract the attention of everyone. Facing the gazes of Ivan, Julie, Tachiba, and all his classmates, Noah sighed inwardly. Noah had indeed successfully leveled up to grade 3. But in fact, Noah was not only not happy, but also a little disappointed. This was because Noah discovered that the strengthening effect of the Daybreak Star rune, this time was much weaker than the previous 2 times. The Daybreak Star pattern could strengthen a person's body and spirit, allowing them to obtain extraordinary power and become an existence that surpassed humans. It was a pity that Noah was already an existence that surpassed humans, and even surpassed them by a large margin. Although the Daybreak Star rune was a magical thing that strengthened the human body in a multiplicative manner, Noah had already discovered that there was a limit to the strengthening of the Daybreak Star rune. From the point of view of Noah, who had released all of his power, the strengthening of the Daybreak Star rune on his body was minimal, which was enough to prove that there was a limit to the strengthening of the Daybreak Star rune. Fortunately, even if the strengthening of the body was minimal, the Daybreak Star rune could still strengthen the person's spirit, specialize the person's soul, and allow the person to obtain a weapon called the Blaze. It could also indirectly increase Noah's magical power, giving Noah a lot of benefits. But now, not only did the Daybreak Star rune strengthen Noah's body, even the strengthening of his spirit seemed to have finally reached its peak. Compared to the previous 2 times, the extent of the increase was extremely limited. The evidence was that Noah clearly felt it after successfully leveling up to grade 3. This time, his magical power was not able to increase by much. In other words, the strengthening brought by the Daybreak Star rune on Noah's body, spirit, magic, and other aspects had all become negligible. Only the blaze was still strengthened, and its hardness, toughness, and other aspects had all been greatly improved. It was believed that after 1 or 2 more times of strengthening, the effect of the daybreak star rune, would be the same as the protozoan virus, and would no longer have any effect on Noah. Aware of this, how could Noah not be disappointed? Noah could only release some of his limited power, and after he obtained the strength of grade 3, he let go of the daybreak star rune's expectations of strengthening his body, spirit, and magical power. Of course, although Noah let go of the daybreak star rune's expectations of strengthening, he was still looking forward to the next upgrade. Even if the daybreak star rune's strengthening had gradually begun to have no effect on Noah, after leveling up to grade 4, it was not only the strengthening power, but also another kind of power that Noah was looking forward to would be obtained by Noah in the next grade. Blaze was the true power of blazing fang. Thinking of this, the disappointment in Noah's heart disappeared by a lot. Even if I leveled up to grade 3, there is nothing to be happy about. Immediately, Noah said to the crowd that had gathered around. Did you guys hear what teacher Tsukujiri said just now? Ivanli, Julie, Tachibana, and Ya suddenly looked at each other. After a while, Ya weakly raised her hand. Is it about leveling up to grade 4? Leveling up to grade 4 could release the true power hidden in Blaze. This matter, Tsukujiri Bunny had just announced in front of the class. This caused the students in the class to look forward to the true power hidden in their Blaze, but at the same time, it also caused many students to feel vexed. This was because Tsukujiri Bunny had also said another piece of news. If you want to level up to grade 4, not only do you need to have more stringent physical conditions, the mental requirements will also greatly increase. Is it referring to this matter? Tachibana also frowned in vexation. I didn't think that leveling up to grade 4 would be so difficult. Ivanli, Julie, and Ya all nodded. Even Noah lowered his head and muttered to himself. According to what Tsukujiri Bunny had said, although the conditions for reaching each grade were the same, which was to obtain sufficient physical and mental training, the 3 grades of grade I, grade 2, and grade 3 had higher physical requirements, but the mental requirements were not as high. However, if you want to level up to grade 4, the conditions were completely opposite. Let's use an analogy. If the required physical and mental values to level up to grade 2 and grade 3 were 10, then the physical value would be 9, and the mental value would only be 1. However, at grade 4, the two values were reversed. Only when the mental value reached 9, and the physical value reached 1, could one successfully level up. It was said that this was because at grade 4, one needed to greatly strengthen their mental strength in order to draw out more of their soul's power, and to stimulate the true power hidden in Blaze. This was why leveling up to grade 4 had such harsh mental requirements. And this was what everyone was vexed about. The physical aspect could still be purposefully improved through daily training. But how could one improve their mental strength? Train their willpower. What kind of training would be the most effective? Or were there other methods? These, no one knew. It was because of this reason that Tsukujiri Bunny used a happy and cruel tone to tell everyone a piece of news. In this school, there were at most 3 or 4 people who could level up to grade 4 every year. True power. Ivanli couldn't help but put his hand on his chest. What kind of power does my Blaze have? Julie, Tachibana, and Ya all fell into a reverie. Even Noah couldn't help but look forward to it. What kind of power does my Blaze have? It really makes people look forward to it. Chapter 250. In a burst of softness that made people reluctant to leave, Noah woke up from his sleep, and his confused head began to wake up. As soon as he woke up, the softness that still surrounded Noah when he fell asleep and made Noah feel as if he had entered a very comfortable place touched every nerve in Noah in a clearer way. Noah, who was really familiar with this soft touch, could only open his eyes and look at the ceiling. After a long time, he smiled bitterly. Noah. Noah. Two dreamlike murmurs echoed softly from Noah's left and right sides, and the soft feeling became clearer. Even if he didn't confirm it with his own eyes, Noah could guess what had happened. It must be that Julie and Lilith habitually hugged each other, sandwiching Noah tightly in the middle. In fact, this was indeed the case. As usual, today's Julie and Lilith were still naked, but their bodies were covered with a thin sheet. Their delicate bodies under the sheet were desperately sticking to Noah's body, as if they were using Noah as a pillow, entangling him like an octopus. Noah, who was sandwiched between Julie and Lilith, could only bear the smooth skin from Julie and the plump touch from Lilith. There was only a bitter smile on his face again and again. If it was before, Noah would inevitably be shaken. However, the same thing would shake if it happened once or twice, and it would shake if it happened a dozen or 20 times. But if it happened nearly 100 times, would it still shake? At least, Noah was completely numb. It has to be said that habit is really a very scary thing. Undoubtedly, there were two extremely beautiful foreign girls sleeping with him almost every day, and they were sleeping with him naked every day. As a healthy man, Noah not only survived, but he was no longer shaken by the same wonderful encounter. Isn't this scary? The most frightening thing was not Noah's habits, but the habits of Julie, Lilith, and even Ivan. After a few months of interaction, he didn't know if Julie and Lilith had completely trusted Noah. Now, they basically didn't guard against Noah. They could calmly take off their clothes in front of Noah at any time. Ever since she started to resist Lilith and was unwilling to give Noah's right to sleep with Lilith, Julie would come to this room almost every night after taking a shower, refusing to leave no matter what. Gradually, even Ivan, who shared a room with Julie, got used to it. In the beginning, he would sulk when Julie and Lilith fought to sleep with Noah every night, but now, all he did was sigh and get along with Noah as usual. According to Ivan himself, since there hadn't been any strange rumors in the past few months, it proved that Noah's character was still trustworthy. At the very least, he wouldn't do anything strange to the opposite sex who shared the same bed. Therefore, Ivan was relieved. Ivania didn't blush because of such things. She just smiled shyly when she knew that Noah, Julie, and Lilith were sleeping together. Only Orange Bar seemed to be unable to get used to it in his entire life. Every time he encountered something that had to do with relationships between men and women, he would either overreact or curse Noah as shameless, with a flushed face before running away. It was under such circumstances that Noah lived in the school for a few months. And today, it was finally the end of the semester. Thinking of this, Noah took a deep breath, and the depression in his heart dissipated a lot. With some expectations, he began to wake up the two charming girls. Good morning. Good morning. Voices saying good morning to each other constantly sounded from the surroundings. In the first-year classroom, a group of students was laughing and talking. And if one observed carefully, they would find that compared to a few months ago, the current first-year students had changed a lot. The original feeling of immaturity was gone, replaced by an aura that had begun to settle down. After a few months of intensive training and combat training, the group of students had already undergone obvious changes compared to when they first entered the school. They couldn't be said to be strong, but at least they had the feeling of being a combat personnel, just like how a recruit became a veteran, ready to be sent to the battlefield at any time. Of course, it was just a little. After all, even though the first-year students often had all kinds of comparisons and duels, they hadn't experienced a real life and death battle. They could only be considered to have left the beginner stage, but they were still rookies. However, that didn't affect the progress of the first-year students. The day has finally come. I've been waiting for a long time. We can finally level up. We must succeed. Yeah. Amidst the laughter and chatter, the students were all making similar statements. The reason was very simple. Because today, at the end of the first semester, the first-year students would also usher in their first ascension ritual. Not to mention that if they succeeded, they would be able to jump to level 2, and their strength would increase greatly. Just the fact that there were several level 2 classmates around them, and even level 3 existences, already made these level 1 students, who were only level 1, look forward to the ascension ritual. And the few level 2 students were also looking forward to today's ascension ritual. As long as they passed today's ascension ritual and rose to level 3, they would be able to sit back and relax until the 3rd year, and finally welcome graduation, without having to worry about being expelled. Regarding this, the most timid Yo was extremely nervous. Relax, yeah. Orange Bar patted Yo's slender back. Your efforts during this period will definitely not be in vain, trust me. Little Bar. Yo looked at Orange Bar with gratitude and worry in her eyes. But can I really do it? Ma, yeah, don't worry. Ivan hugged Yo's soft body and giggled. Don't forget, you are now publicly recognized as the 2nd person in terms of physical strength in the 1st year. In the past few months, Yo relied on the breathing technique to run almost every day to hone her physical strength. This not only made Yo's control of the breathing technique more and more skillful, but it also allowed Yo's physical strength to be fully improved in the past few months of training. Now, in terms of physical strength, Yo was already the 2nd person in the entire 1st year, and even the 2nd year. As for the 1st place, it was naturally the developer of the breathing technique. Noah. Julie turned her head and looked at Noah with her deep red eyes. Aren't you worried? Noah, who had been pestered by the bored Lilith, spread out his hands. If I get it, it's my fortune, if I don't, it's my fate. Julie nodded in confusion, clearly not understanding Noah's meaning. On the other hand, Lilith looked straight at Noah, a smile slowly appearing on her delicate face as if she could see through Noah's heart. That's what you say, but you're still looking forward to it, right? Noah smiled and did not deny it. He was indeed looking forward to it. He was looking forward to what kind of power his blaze could display after reaching level 4. If the sublimation fails, then I will have a high fever for a few days and won't be able to get out of bed for a while. Noah looked around at the girls around him. So, our goal is to successfully sublimate. Of course. Lilith was the first to speak confidently. If it wasn't for the successful sublimation, I wouldn't have waited until now. As a special, Lilith must have a lot of methods to obtain the daybreak star pattern needed to perform the sublimation ritual. But even so, Lilith did not rashly perform the sublimation, because if she couldn't sublimate, she would have to lie in bed for a few days in vain. So, even someone as confident as Lilith would not rashly perform the sublimation ritual. I hope you can be a little more nervous, Orange Bar said to Lilith. Lilith has no sense of nervousness. Yes, 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 Lilith replied casually, making Orange Bar angry and helpless. After a few months, Lilith finally got along well with everyone under Noah's influence. She no longer missed work for no reason and hid in her room to sleep in or drink black tea. And the one who had the best relationship with Lilith was actually the serious Orange Bar, which was really unexpected. Chapter 251. Everyone. Hurry up and line up. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome if you miss this rare opportunity to sublimate. Yu Jianli Bunny, who was dressed strangely as usual, used a sweet tone to shout commands that did not have the slightest bit of deterrence, while constantly jumping up and down in the surroundings. When she encountered those who were in line a little slower, she would directly slap their buttocks, causing quite a few girls to cry out. Unlike the Class 1 students in the Class 2 students were in a separate line. Thus, Ivanli, Julie, Tachibana, and the others, who knew Tsukumazu's true colors, looked at Tsukumazu, who was running back and forth in the rank I team with a cute smile on her face. They felt that this was all unreal. Let alone the girls, even Kyujuju Totoro and Kawaii Hokusaki who were also in line felt abnormally uncomfortable. Humph, Kawaii Hokusaki quickly spat out her displeasure. Seeing that guy running back and forth in our class so energetically makes me angry. It seemed that Kawaii Hokusaki hadn't forgotten that she almost died in Tsukujiri Bunny's hands. Yeah. Kyujuju Totoro also stared closely in Tsukujiri Bunny's direction. Although that guy hasn't done anything suspicious in these few months and hasn't done anything to the students in class, we still can't be careless. Obviously, Kyujuju Totoro still hadn't accepted the fact that Tsukujiri Bunny was still her class teacher and was worried that Tsukujiri Bunny would continue to do things to others. The girls who clearly heard Kyujuju Totoro and Kawaii Hokusaki's conversation all silently looked at each other. Last time in the new blade battle, Sensei Bunny said that she was a rank V surpasser. Ivanli said with some worry. If we were to successfully ascend to level 3 today, would we be able to fight back against Teacher Bunny who is at level V? That one sentence made the other girls fall into silence. Probably not. After a while, Tachibana was the first to speak. Her voice was extremely calm. We've all seen the true power of Blaze Sensei. To be honest, it's hard to believe that it's a power that's only one level higher than rank 3. The difference between rank 3 and rank 4 is huge, much bigger than the difference between other ranks. Julie nodded concisely. That is why I agree with Ba. Really? Ye asked worriedly. Even if we work together, it won't work. That won't do, right? Orange Bar shook his head. Perhaps we'll only be able to pose a threat to Tsukujin Sensei after we successfully reach rank 4. Otherwise, no matter how many people we have, we won't be a match for Tsukujin Sensei if one side can unleash the true power of Blaze while the other side can't do the same. Julie and Ye nodded, and only Ivan said with emotion. At this time, I really admire Noah. Why was he able to defeat Teacher Little Rabbit who was at rank V when he was at rank I? Hearing this, the girls all looked at each other in dismay. Noah is really strong. Julie tilted her head, making the bell on her headband jingle. He's reliable and strong, just like Dad. Jolie-chan. You couldn't help but laugh. I think there's something wrong with your analogy. Noah's words shouldn't be considered in our consideration. Don't forget, he's an exception. Orange Bar smiled bitterly. Besides, Noah also said that he just happened to comprehend a new technique. Plus, Tsukujin Sensei didn't understand the power of his moves, so he chose to meet force with force. That's why he was able to defeat Tsukujin Sensei. If they were to fight again, it's hard to say who would win. That's only limited to the past. Ivan turned his head and looked at the long line at the front of the corridor. His gem-like eyes flashed with a strange light. If Noah is able to successfully ascend to grade 4 this time. The following words didn't need to be said out loud for Julie, Orange Bar, and Ye to understand. As long as he could successfully reach rank 4 and obtain the ability to unlock the true power of Blaze, then even Tsukujin Sensei Bunny who was at rank V would probably not be Noah's opponent. Whether it was Ivan, Julie, Orange Bar, or Ye, they all believed this. As the only rank 3 in the first grade, Noah was chased away by Tsukujin Sensei Bunny before he could line up. He was also taken away by a staff member. The only one who walked with Noah was the special Lilith. According to Tsukujin Sensei Bunny, in the class, only Noah and Lilith could enjoy the privilege of not needing to line up and directly undergo the ascension ritual. The reason was very simple. It was because this time, it was related to whether or not Noah could rise to level 4 and release the true power of Blaze, 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 Blaze. Not only Noah himself, but even the school's higher-ups were very interested in what kind of power the revolver's Blaze would have if Noah successfully leveled up to grade 4. Therefore, Noah was arranged to undergo the ascension ritual alone. As for the reason why Lilith was here, it was even simpler. Because Lilith was a special. As a special and a young miss, it would be too difficult for Lilith to line up. Therefore, Lilith followed in the name of being a special. Under the guidance of the staff member, Noah and Lilith came to a spacious room. And in the room, there were two people. One was wearing glasses on his face, wearing a suit, and had a cold expression on his face. The other was a young girl wearing a dark goth lowly outfit, with long black hair tied into two ponytails, as dark as the night. Lilith directly said in surprise, "New Moon. Why are you also here?" "In the school, I hope you can call me the chairman." 99th Lunar Night said helplessly. "Even if you are my friend." "Got it." Although she said so, Lilith's tone still did not change, as if she was chatting with a friend. "Then, why are you here? Isn't the reason obvious?" 99th Lunar Night no longer paid attention to Lilith. Her deep eyes stared at Noah's body, with an inexplicable expression flickering in her eyes. "As an special, I am looking forward to what kind of power your soul can exert. For this reason, it would be good to take a little time to come here." Hearing this, Noah could not help but sigh in his heart. Just like what Lilith said, 99th Lunar Night really only cared about the abnormality of Noah's soul. In addition, whether or not Noah concealed his origin, and whether or not he intended to harm the school, as long as she could achieve the goal of 99th Lunar Night, 99th Lunar Night did not care. "The chairman really has confidence in me." Thinking so in his heart, Noah's face showed a faint smile. "Does the chairman think that I have no possibility of failing the sublimation? But you can't deny the possibility of success." 99th Lunar Night answered almost emotionlessly. "Student Noah, you have to know that for a researcher, as long as there is a slight possibility, they will madly study it. This is a true researcher." After saying that, 99th Lunar Night stepped forward and took out a syringe without a needle from her arms. After a long while, 99th Lunar Night raised her head and looked at Noah. "Let me personally perform the sublimation ritual for you." Noah immediately turned his head and looked at Lilith. After waiting for Lilith to nod with a smile, he helplessly shrugged his shoulders, stepped forward, and knelt down in front of 99th Lunar Night. Her deep eyes stared at Noah's deep pupils as 99th Lunar Night said one word at a time. "I hope that one day you will be able to achieve absolute duo." Following this sentence, 99th Lunar Night raised her hand and suddenly inserted the rod-shaped syringe into Noah's neck and pressed the trigger. With a soft sound, the daybreak star pattern in the syringe rapidly decreased at a speed visible to the naked eye and was injected into Noah's body. Chapter 252. Under the gaze of everyone present, the emerald green liquid representing the daybreak star rune was injected into Noah's body with the activation of the syringe and disappeared into the test tube of the syringe. Noah only felt a slight heat at his neck, and then his whole body suddenly emitted an amazing heat. Buzz! In the buzzing sound, the pure white star rune suddenly appeared on Noah's chest and was reflected on it. Pang! Immediately, the amazing heat emitted from Noah's body rushed out of Noah's body and turned into a red flame. It instantly burned and covered Noah's whole body. Chi-chi! The red flame danced wildly on Noah's body, as if it wanted to devour everything around it, and continued to soar. The three countries, who had been on standby, had already protected 99th Lunar Night when she injected the daybreak star rune into Noah's body and retreated a distance. Even Lilith seemed to want to protect 99th Lunar Night. Together with the three countries, they stood side by side in front of 99th Lunar Night, but their eyes were fixed on Noah's body, motionless. Including 99th Lunar Night. Chi-chi! Along with the astonishing heat, the blazing red flames danced wildly in the vast space. When the daybreak star rune entered Noah's body, it was as if his whole body had been struck by lightning. He trembled fiercely and immediately closed his eyes, sinking his mind into his own body. Under Noah's sensing ability, the situation in Noah's body was like a picture, directly displayed in his mind, allowing Noah to clearly see the situation in his body. At this time, the daybreak star rune that had just been injected into Noah's body had already dispersed into extremely small nanomachines that could not be seen by the naked eye, randomly shuttling back and forth in Noah's body. Following the shuttling of these nanomachines, the daybreak star pattern in Noah's body, which had been slowly functioning like cells, also began to riot. They slowly followed the newly added daybreak star pattern and penetrated Noah's entire body. Undoubtedly, apart from the first time he implanted the daybreak star tattoo and became a grade 1 surpasser, Noah didn't feel too much pain when he ascended to grade 2 and grade 3. There wasn't even the slightest abnormality. He only felt his whole body heat up, and the ascension was a success. But this time, although there was no pain, the abnormality was extremely great. Apart from the flames that were burning wildly on the surface of his body, Noah's body was also experiencing an abnormality. The originally very normal organs, tissues, and veins seemed to have been burned by something. They suddenly twisted like fried dough twists, which was extremely strange and terrifying. However, after a while, the nanomachines that were violently moving in every corner of his body constantly passed through these twisted organs, tissues, and veins, making them quickly recover in just a short second. At first glance, this seemed to be the effect of the daybreak star pattern on Noah's body. But only Noah could sense that the daybreak star pattern was not really working on his body, but on the existence deeper in his body, his soul. That was an existence that Noah couldn't sense even with his sensing ability. However, at this moment, Noah seemed to be able to sense the existence of his soul. No. To be more precise, it should be said that he sensed the existence sleeping in his soul. There were two weapons. One was a completely black gun with pure white lines fluctuating on the gun body. Revolver. The other sword was also completely black, and there were also white patterns on the sword. It was no longer as resplendent as before. Instead, it was as dark as the abyss. Knight's sword. One of them was the blaze, which gave Noah the title of exception. The other was the blaze that only Noah knew about, even if no one else knew about its existence. The two blaze that belonged to Noah seemed to have encountered something extremely exciting at this moment, as they repeatedly vibrated. Buzz, 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 buzz. As the two blazes vibrated, the nanomachines that were rioting in every corner of Noah's body seemed to have received some kind of order. In an instant, they completely stopped and released some kind of wave-like message that others couldn't see. This kind of wave-like message reverberated like ripples, affecting every corner of Noah's body. Noah felt it. Under the influence of this message, his mind became clearer and clearer. This was the manifestation of his mind being greatly enhanced by the Dawn Star tattoo. Buzz, 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 buzz. As Noah's spirit was greatly enhanced by the daybreak star rune, the vibrations of the two blaze fangs that were sleeping in Noah's soul became more and more frequent. In the end, they also began to vibrate with waves of fluctuations. The fluctuations representing the Dawn Star tattoo, and the fluctuations representing the blaze suddenly met in Noah's body. In the end, as if they were being pulled, they all retracted into the two blaze. In this instant, two voices appeared in Noah's mind without any reason. Or rather, two names. Noah, who had two names in his mind, suddenly opened his eyes. Buzz. In the depths of Noah's soul, the knight's sword and revolver ablaze suddenly blossomed with a gorgeous light. It was a pale blue light. Almost at the same time, the blazing red flame that covered Noah's entire body trembled and was immediately replaced by another flame that burned from within Noah's body. Looking at the new flame that replaced the original flame, among the three people present, except for the three kingdoms, Lilith and 99 lunar nights' eyes lit up at the same time. This was because the color of the flame burning on Noah's body changed from red to pale blue. Lilith wasn't the only one who had seen this pale blue flame. As the person in charge of the Dawn organization, 99 lunar nights had seen it countless times. This was a flame that only a surpasser, who had reached grade 4, would have. When this flame appeared on the body, it not only represented that the surpasser had successfully reached grade 4, but it also represented that the surpasser's true soul had been awakened. That's right. It was exactly the same as when Moonlight Glass Rabbit used the Mad Snake ring. It was also at this moment that Noah made a call. Blaze. The pale blue flame that covered Noah's entire body suddenly flowed like water and converged in front of Noah. Noah reached out his hand and grabbed the pale blue flame that was burning in front of him. Who? The pale blue flame immediately rotated and slowly turned into Noah's unique weapon, the revolver. Then, Noah's eyes flashed and he threw the revolver in his hand into the air. Show me. Magician. As soon as his voice fell, the revolver that was thrown into the air suddenly bloomed with an unusually dazzling light. Lilith, the 3 kingdoms, and 99 lunar nights, who was protected behind the 2 of them, were shocked at the same time. They quickly raised their hands and blocked in front of them, blocking the incoming dazzling light. Through the gaps in their hands, they squinted their eyes and stared at the revolver that bloomed with dazzling light. Under the dazzling light, the pitch-black revolver actually trembled and disintegrated into pieces. Buzz buzz. The dazzling light became more and more intense. In the center of the dazzling light, the revolver that had disintegrated into pieces was like a sphere that was spinning. Then, it scattered and gathered in 7 different places before suddenly combining. Not long after, whether it was Noah, Lilith, 99 lunar nights, or the 3 kingdoms, they all saw it. He saw 7 objects that were completely black in color and had extremely unique yet simple appearances. Chapter 253. The 7 pitch-black objects were arranged in a semicircle and suspended above Noah's head. The 7 pitch-black objects that were disassembled and reassembled from Noah's blaze were mainly circular in shape. However, on the top, bottom, left, and right of the pitch-black rings, there was an antenna-like horn protruding from each of the 4 directions. It was as if the cross inside the rings had been removed, and the line of sight could be seen through the scope of a sniper rifle. The only difference was that there were some differences in size. This was because the size of the 7 pitch-black rings that protruded from the top, bottom, left, and right weren't just the size of an eye socket, as seen from the aiming line of a sniper rifle. Instead, they were the size of half a person's body, with a diameter of 1 meter. Logically speaking, if they were to be disassembled and reassembled from Noah's blaze, it would be impossible for the fragments of a revolver to form 7 rings with 4 vertical corners and a diameter of more than 1 meter. But in reality, whether it was Noah, Lilith, 99 lunar nights, or the 3 kingdoms, they had all seen that the revolver being disassembled and reassembled into these 7 pitch-black rings. And these 7 rings were the initial form of the true power hidden in Noah's revolver's blaze. Therefore, at the same time that his blaze transformed into these 7 rings, Noah felt as if a memory had been poured into his mind out of nowhere. He knew the power of a magician, or rather, the ability. Snap! Noah did not hesitate at all. He directly extended his hand and snapped his fingers. Kacha kacha! The 7 rings that looked like the crosshairs of a sniper rifle scope with a cross removed in the middle immediately rotated. In the midst of a mechanical cracking sound, they disassembled once again. In the end, they turned into pieces of pitch-black steel plates that had the outline of wings. The tips were pointed in front of Noah. In the next second, the tips of all the pitch-black wings flashed with a touch of light. Swish, 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 swish. Without any warning, the tips of the pitch-black wings floating around Noah shot out tiny beams of light. That was a laser. Streams of laser beams cut through the space like streaks of light descending from the sky, landing on the wall in front of them like raindrops. Bang, 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 bang. Suddenly, a series of explosions sounded on the solid wall. Gravel also splashed up and fell to the ground. When the laser stopped shooting and the sound of the explosion disappeared, the wall that was covered by the laser was not only riddled with holes like a hornet's nest, but every hole was also charred black and emitted light smoke. Seeing this, Lilith, 99 lunar nights, and 3 kingdoms narrowed their eyes. It can shoot lasers. 99 lunar nights turned her head and looked straight at Noah. Is this the true power of your blaze? Hearing this, Noah glanced at 99 lunar nights and didn't say anything. He reached out his hand and snapped his fingers again. Paw! At the same time the sound of the snap echoed clearly, the pitch-black steel wings floating around Noah trembled. As if they were blown by a whirlwind, they madly danced in the air. Kacha, kacha! The familiar mechanical cracking sound rang out once again. All of the pitch-black steel wings disintegrated, and as they danced in the air, they actually formed straight heavy cannons. Then, the muzzles of the heavy cannons gathered light. Seeing the muzzles of the heavy cannons filled with light, how could Lilith and 99 lunar nights not understand what was going to happen next? Could it be? Lilith sucked in a breath of cold air and said involuntarily, "It can shoot laser cannons." Not only laser cannons. Noah, who had lowered his hand, seemed to be very satisfied with the power displayed by his blaze. It was rare for him to be so excited as he explained. Laser cannons, flame cannons, electromagnetic cannons. Frost bombs, explosive bombs, smoke bombs, light missiles. Depending on the combination method, these can all be launched. Noah looked at the shocked Lilith, and the corners of his mouth curled into a joyful arc. This is a power that has a myriad of forms and effects. A myriad of forms. Lilith murmured as if she was dreaming. A myriad of forms. 99 lunar nights' expression also changed. That's why it's called magician, right? Noah smiled and stretched out his hand. The light on the muzzles of the pitch-black heavy cannons immediately dissipated. Whing! With a trembling sound, the pitch-black heavy cannons disintegrated. The fragments didn't recombine into other forms. Instead, they floated down to Noah's outstretched hand and formed a large-caliber modified revolver. It couldn't be said to be a combination, but rather a return to its original state. The revolver in his hand turned into a blue flame and disappeared. Noah held his hand, his eyes also fluctuating with a look of surprise. It was indeed a surprise. Noah didn't think that his blaze of the revolver would actually hide the power of the magician. Depending on the combination, it could derive different forms and different effects, reproducing all kinds of powerful and strange weapons. Wasn't this the same as the magician that could continuously bring all kinds of surprises and changes? Most importantly, whether it was the laser, or the missiles, they were all transformed from Noah's mental strength. In other words, as Noah's mental strength increased, the power of the various weapons produced by the magician would also increase accordingly. If Noah released all of his power, the magician would definitely be amazing. Thinking of this, Noah was pleasantly surprised and also regretful. Of course, regretful was the strengthening effect of the daybreak star rune. This time, leveling up to grade 4, gave Noah the benefits of using the true power of blaze. However, the benefits in terms of enhancement were really negligible, to the point where there was none. Therefore, Noah knew that the daybreak star rune could no longer bring him any strengthening effect. How could this not be regretful? However, the daybreak star rune brought Noah a lot of benefits, increasing Noah's overall strength by a lot, so there was nothing to complain about. What's more, this time, in addition to the revolver's real power, Noah's other blaze also had its real power activated. Thinking of the power of his other blaze, Noah's mood suddenly became a lot better. As for Lilith, 99 lunar nights, and the three kingdoms, they seemed to be immersed in the power of Noah's magician, and were silent for a while as if digesting it. After a while, 99 lunar nights opened her mouth. What an amazing power! Amazing! How could amazing be used to describe it? It must be known that even if it was a surpasser, only those who had reached level 3 and above could more or less see the trajectory of a bullet. Only those who had reached level 4 could rely on their own strength to dodge a bullet. Even ordinary bullets needed to be at least level 3 to have a way to deal with them, let alone lasers, and other such existences. To put it bluntly, with the power of Noah's magician, let alone ordinary level 4, even a level V like the moonlight glass rabbit or even higher existences might not be able to deal with it. For the blaze to have this degree of power, even the highest person in charge of the Dawn organization, 99 lunar nights, had never seen it before. As expected of the exception with the special blaze. 99 lunar nights laughed, laughing extremely happily. The soul light that you displayed, I have indeed received it. Saying this, 99 lunar nights turned around. Go back and properly prepare. Before leaving, 99 lunar nights left behind such a sentence. Soon, you will have to go on a long trip. Noah and Lilith were both stunned. Chapter 254. Yea, in the classroom, Evanli and Ya high-fived each other, their faces brimming with happiness. That's great. Evanli looked around at his surroundings and nodded in satisfaction. Everyone successfully ascended, that's great. On the side, Ya also couldn't hide her happiness and nodded. Orange Bar also had a smile on his face. Even the ahog on Julie's head was swaying back and forth, clearly in a very good mood. At the end of the semester, all of the freshmen had successfully ascended to level 2. Not a single one of them had failed. This wasn't strange. After all, after a few months of training and perseverance, those who couldn't endure it all applied to drop out of school in advance and return to the world of ordinary people. Those who stayed behind naturally all had good perseverance. Under the situation where their body and mind were fully trained, it was only to level 2, if they still couldn't successfully ascend, that would be really strange. Therefore, right now, the entire classroom was filled with a joyous atmosphere. Almost everyone had a smile on their face, some even had their arms around each other's shoulders, they were simply extremely excited. And among the group of students who obtained good results in the previous New Blade battle, and obtained an additional chance to ascend to level 2, there were a few groups that regretfully failed to ascend. Now, they had a high fever and returned to the dormitory to rest. Those who successfully ascended to level 3 had 3 groups of double-tripping blades. The first group, Evanli and Julie. The second group, Orange Bar and Ya. The third group, Kajuryu and Oki Hokusaki. Basically, they were all familiar people. And in addition to these 3 groups of double-tripping blades, there was another group of double-tripping blades that also successfully ascended. Naturally, it was Noah and Lilith. It's just that Noah ascended to level 4, and Lilith ascended to level 3. Being promoted to level 3 means that we have successfully been promoted to the 3rd grade. Furthermore, we have finally obtained a graduation certificate and the qualifications to enter the Dawn organization to work. Orange Bar also looked around at the crowd. It seems that until graduation, or even when we enter the Dawn organization, our group can stay together. Yes. Ya heaved a huge sigh of relief, causing her pair of huge and round breasts to jiggle up and down. I don't have to worry about being expelled anymore. It's great that I can graduate successfully and stay with everyone. Enter the Dawn organization to work. Ivan clasped his hands together and placed them in front of his chest as if he was grateful. His face was full of excitement. After all, Ivanley's goal was to enter the Dawn organization and earn a lot of money to revitalize his family business. Now that he had successfully reached rank 3, it meant that Ivanley's goal was more than 90% achieved. All he had to do was to complete his 3 years in the academy and get his graduation certificate, then he would be able to achieve his goal. Therefore, among the people present, if there was one person who was the happiest about today's successful ascension, it would definitely be Ivan. Yeah, Julie nodded in agreement. Then, she turned around and looked at Noah. It's great to be with Noah all the time. The joyful atmosphere that filled the air suddenly froze for a moment. The line of girls' eyes were cast on Noah almost at the same time. Noah, who was trying to figure out the true meaning of the words of the 99 lunar nights, didn't participate in the girls' conversation, and didn't hear Julie's words, but he felt a lot of eyes on him. He was stunned and confused. What's wrong? Hee. Lilith, who was sitting next to Noah, smiled sweetly. Everyone is just feeling that Noah is very popular. Is that so? Noah, who was under the pressure of the girls' gazes, was a little restless and smiled bitterly. Is it okay? Sigh. Looking at Noah's bitter smile, Ivanley sighed, narrowed his eyes, and looked at Noah. And then, you should tell us, right? Tell you? Noah asked in confusion. Tell you what? Does it even need to be said? Ivanley's eyes lit up. Of course, it's the true power hidden in your blaze after you've leveled up to rank 4. Hearing this, Julie, Orange, and you all looked at Noah with anticipation. It was obvious that they were very interested in the true power of the blaze that Noah obtained after reaching level 4. It couldn't be helped. After the Moonsight Glass Rabbit's display last time, the girls all knew how strong the true power of the blaze was. Plus, Noah's blaze was an extremely special revolver that shouldn't appear, so it was normal for them to be curious. Hurry up and tell us. Ivanley said with anticipation. Then what is it? Lilith, you also know what kind of power Noah's blaze has, right? Julie glanced at Lilith expressionlessly. Then I also want to know what the true power of Noah's blaze is. Can you not have a sense of resistance in such a strange place? Lilith turned her head with dissatisfaction. Besides, Noah is my tripping twin blades. Isn't it normal for him to understand his tripping twin blades the most? No. Julie shook her head. The person who understands Noah the most should be the person closest to Noah. So that is me. Of course not. All right. I'm scared of you guys. Seeing that Julie and Lilith were about to start their daily quarrel, Noah quickly stopped them. You guys can even fight over this kind of thing. I really have to hand it to you guys. After saying this, Noah was about to explain the matter of the magician, but at this moment, a voice came from the classroom door and stopped him. Attention. Everyone, pay attention. Tsukujiri Bunny clapped her hands and shouted with a sweet voice. Noah Doria, Lilith Bristow, Julie Sigtuna, Iwanri Nagakura, Tachaba, Takayahoi, Kyujituryu, Kukui Hokusaki, the 8 of you, now go to the chairman's office. All the people whose names were called, including Noah, were astonished. Tomorrow, everyone will come with me to participate in a field study. When they arrived at the chairman's office, 99 Lunar Nights, who was sitting behind a luxurious desk, said this sentence that shocked everyone present. Field study. Noah, who was standing at the side of the group, as if he wanted to hide in the corner and not participate, frowned. Study. This was not unfamiliar to Noah and the others. The school had long since stipulated that students who had reached rank 3 would basically be given the opportunity to participate in the study as much as possible. Because, if they joined the Dawn organization's peace force, they would become a tomb guardian, and in the future, they would need to participate in all kinds of life-threatening missions. In order to let the students be able to smoothly carry out missions after graduation, the school hoped that the rank 3 students would be able to familiarize themselves with the process of every mission, so as to avoid losing their lives when the time came. Therefore, the school would generally arrange some study for the rank 3 students, so that they could familiarize themselves with the future work. Tsukujiri Bunny had mentioned this matter more than once in class. And now, that day had finally arrived. But wasn't it a bit too fast? Undoubtedly, 7 of the 8 people here had just been promoted to rank 3, right? This was the doubt in everyone's mind, including Noah. 99 lunar nights, however, did not pay attention to everyone's doubts and continued to speak. In the first semester of the school's first year, there were already 8 people who obtained the qualifications to study. This year, we have gathered a lot of outstanding students, and I feel very gratified. In order to let everyone make more progress, I sincerely look forward to the results of this study. Because this study was decided very suddenly, if you have any inconvenience, you can ask and apply to withdraw from this study. Next to 99 lunar nights, 3 kingdoms continued from the chairman's words. If it is really inconvenient to participate, we will also allow you to withdraw. This sentence made everyone look at each other. Chapter 255. Quit. No matter what other people thought, Noah really had the idea of quitting after hearing it. Because there was no need to participate at all, right? To put it bluntly, the purpose of the study arranged by the academy was to allow the students to put the knowledge they had learned into practice and to increase the success rate of becoming a tomb protector in the future. And that would only happen when he joined the Dawn organization 3 years later. 3 years. Would Noah stay in this world for 3 years? To be honest, that would be a bit difficult. Therefore, for Noah, who would most likely leave this world in 3 years and go to other worlds to find a world fragment and would not become a tomb guardian, this study was really meaningless. What's more, when he was in the world of the Dark Bullet, in order to get a police license, Noah participated in various lectures and exercises. Although those lectures and exercises were related to the work of the police, and most of them were specifically targeted at primitive animals, Noah also carried out various missions in Fairy Tale. For missions, Noah had already mastered a lot of skills, knowledge, and experience. And since the Tomb Guardian was an underground character who suppressed crime, it should not be much different from the work of the Magic Guide Guild and the police. If he had the time to participate in this kind of study, Noah would rather familiarize himself with the power he obtained after reaching grade 4 in the school. The power hidden in the knight's sword and the revolver, the 2 blaze weapons. Thinking like this, when Noah was about to apply for quitting, a strange feeling suddenly rose from the bottom of his heart, making Noah's heart move. He changed the topic and asked a question. What is the main content of the study this time? The other people who had fallen into deep thought also suppressed the thoughts in their hearts and turned their gazes to the 99 lunar nights. 99 lunar nights thought for a moment, then raised his head. Originally, I shouldn't have exposed the contents of the mission without confirming that you are indeed participating in the research, but since the person who asked is an exception, I will also make an exception and make an exception. Saying this, 99th lunar nights expressionlessly began to explain the mission. As you all know, because it's a field study, the study we arrange will indeed be issued to the tomb protectors of the Dawn Organization Security Force to complete some low-risk missions. Therefore, even if it's just a study, the mission this time really does exist. Everyone nodded in agreement. In fact, even if it wasn't a dangerous mission, it was still ridiculous for a group of students who hadn't graduated yet to participate in it. However, there was no shortage of ridiculous things in this school. In other words, when they were mentally prepared, they had long accepted this level of absurdity. The mission this time is actually to protect something very important. 99th lunar night's deep eyes flickered as he spoke. Recently, the Dawn organization accidentally discovered a strange item that couldn't be analyzed. A strange item that even the Dawn organization couldn't analyze. Noah raised his eyebrows. Let alone Noah, even Lilith and the others were stunned. What was the Dawn organization? On the surface, it was an organization that conducted genetic research, but in the dark, the Dawn organization was rich in surpassers. They were active in the underground of this country and could be considered as the inner world of this country. They even had a close relationship with the country and secretly had a lot of power. Why was it that surpassers, this kind of special existence, had not been known by the people of the ordinary world until now? Why was Howling Academy, which nurtured surpassers, a school that not many people knew about? This was all because the Dawn organization had a close relationship with the country and secretly controlled the information in the dark. It could be said that the Dawn organization represented the inner world of this country and was the country's most secretive but also the largest force in this country. In addition, it was a research organization itself. With the current level of scientific development, what could they not analyze? When he heard that there was such a strange existence, the inexplicable feeling in Noah's heart that prevented him from leaving just now became stronger and stronger. It made him react and look at 99 lunar nights. What is that thing? If I knew what it was, I wouldn't use the term strange item to describe it. 99 lunar nights glanced at Noah. We call it the broken feather because its appearance is similar to a broken feather. This sentence was like a clap of thunder and also like a fuse. Not only did it ignite the strange feeling that suddenly rose in Noah's heart, it also exploded in Noah's mind. Its appearance was similar to a broken feather. And there was no way to analyze it. Why did he have such an inexplicable feeling about it? All these signs made Noah's eyes gradually brighten. Noah had enough reason to believe. The so-called broken feather that the Dawn organization found was the world fragment that he was looking for. Noah's original intuition came true once again. After entering Howling Academy, he could indeed find clues about the world fragment. As for the fact that the Dawn organization found the world fragment, Noah was not surprised. After all, the world fragment existed in many different ways. Some were like possessing Mavis' tombstone, where only Noah and Mavis could see and touch them. Some were like in the world of the black bullet, where they would automatically appear when certain conditions were met, but only Noah could see and touch them. Naturally, there would also be some world fragments that no one could see or touch. Of course, the Dawn organization wanting to analyze the world fragment was purely a joke. If they could even analyze the composition of a world fragment, then the Dawn organization could forget about creating surpassers and directly create a world. While Noah was immersed in the joy of finding the world fragment, 99 lunar nights continued to explain. The reason why I asked you to protect the broken feather is because the news of the Dawn organization accidentally obtaining a strange item that could not be analyzed has been leaked. Many famous people from all over the world have expressed their desire to visit the broken feather. 99 lunar nights looked around at everyone. Because of this reason, the Dawn organization has already decided to hold an appreciation party the day after tomorrow. At that time, famous people from all over the world will come to this country. So that's how it is. Lilith's green eyes slightly narrowed. Among them are some people who are especially interested in the broken feather and might use some crude methods to obtain it. The Dawn organization is quite famous in the industry, and they can't avoid offending people. For something that even the Dawn organization can't analyze, it's not strange for people to want to get their hands on it. 99th lunar night shook her head and looked at the students one by one. Don't think that this mission is simple. If someone really chooses to make a move on the day of the appreciation party, then that person is definitely an existence that can surpass humans. An existence that can surpass humans. Everyone suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air. Ivan hurriedly said. Isn't surpassers only found in the Dawn organization? That is indeed the case. 99 Lunar Night said with a smile that was not a smile. But, who told you that only surpassers can surpass humans? Everyone's face suddenly froze. Noah and Lilith looked at each other and secretly nodded. Indeed. Not only surpassers. The God Destroyer unit can also surpass humans. Of course, you don't have to be so worried. In addition to you, the members of the Peace unit will also participate in this mission. Moreover, in order to be able to take care of each other when necessary, this time you will not directly stand on the surface, but will disguise yourselves as guests of the appreciation party. After that, 99 Lunar Nights looked at the three kingdoms beside her. The three kingdoms immediately took out a document and walked out. If you all have decided to participate, I will now announce the identity that I have arranged for you. Chapter 256. 10 minutes later, looking at Noah and the others who walked out of the office one after another, a smile slowly appeared on 99 Lunar Night's exquisite, pretty face that was like a doll. Three Kingdoms, who was standing beside 99 Lunar Night like a guard, suddenly spoke. Is this really okay? Hearing this, 99 Lunar Night not only did not stop smiling, but the smile on her face became wider and wider. Are you referring to the appreciation meeting? Yes. Three Kingdoms said expressionlessly. Although I know you must have a reason for doing this, but I personally think that holding an appreciation meeting in our country and receiving everyone regardless of who comes will bring you a lot of danger. Three Kingdoms did not believe that 99 Lunar Night did not understand this. Therefore, this was also the reason why Three Kingdoms could not understand 99 Lunar Night's actions. As a special item that even the Dawn organization could not analyze and was obtained by chance, how could the existence of the shattered feather be leaked so easily? Only Three Kingdoms knew that the person who leaked the information of the shattered feather and attracted the attention of many people in the industry was not someone else, but the person in charge of the Dawn organization, 99 Lunar Night. What was the reason for doing this? Three Kingdoms had accompanied 99 Lunar Night for a long time, so Three Kingdoms could more or less guess 99 Lunar Night's thoughts. However, Three Kingdoms felt that this was not worth it. That exception is indeed very special, even more special than special and ability, but it should not be to the point where you would not hesitate to set up such a situation to give him a trial, right? Yes. A situation. This was only a situation set up by 99 Lunar Night. At the same time, it was also a trial given by 99 Lunar Night. And the purpose of doing this was very simple. The so-called soul is an existence that can be tempered when people burst out with strong willpower. 99 Lunar Night seemed to be very happy with a smile, as if there was still a certain person's back in her eyes. She kept looking in the direction of the office door. And the light of his soul, if it can be tempered under the trial of the witch, it will be even more dazzling, right? 99 Lunar Night was very interested in Noah, very interested to the point of almost placing hope on him. Everyone had a soul. Just like how humans were different, everyone's soul was different as well. This could be seen from the fact that every surpasser's blaze was different. Naturally, there were differences in the strength of a person's soul. The strength of this part of the soul was not obvious before reaching level 4, but once one reached level 4, the strength of one's soul could be more or less determined. This could be seen from the weapon that represented the soul, Blaze's true power. Once he reached level 4, the true power hidden within the blaze would be awakened. At this time, if a person's soul was strong, then the power hidden within the blaze would also be astonishing. On the contrary, if the soul was weak, then the power hidden within the blaze would also be relatively weak. However, the true power hidden within Noah's blaze greatly shocked 99th Lunar Night. A myriad of forms and effects. The ability to reproduce all kinds of modern, and even surpasser-era weapons. For a surpasser who could barely see the trajectory of an ordinary bullet after reaching level 3, and could only dodge an ordinary bullet after reaching level 4. How powerful was that? 99th Lunar Night didn't doubt it in the slightest. Even if Noah was currently only at level 4, once he unlocked the power of the magician, even if he didn't rely on his own astonishing battle techniques and battle experience, just the power of the blaze alone would be able to surpass ranks and defeat opponents. And this was still the current situation. She believed that once Noah's power became stronger and stronger, reproducing nuclear weapons or even stronger weapons wouldn't be a dream. At that time, how powerful would Noah's soul be? Would he be able to reach the ultimate realm that she yearned for even in her dreams? In order to use her own eyes to verify this point, 99th Lunar Night purposely spread the news of the shattered feather, and purposely held this so-called appreciation convention. After all, no matter how miraculous the shattered feather was, it was still something of the Dawn organization. With the Dawn organization secretly controlling the power of the entire country, there was no need for them to go through so much trouble to hold an appreciation convention just because other people wanted to see the shattered feather. Not to mention, it would also attract the greed of some people with ulterior motives. With the shattered feather as bait, and with the fact that I will also be there on that day, I have a feeling that the day of the appreciation convention will be very lively. 99th Lunar Night's eyes flashed with a resolute light. Everything is for the sake of achieving absolute duo. There were many places in the school for students to rest and leisurely spend their free time. For example, there was a flower garden with all kinds of famous flowers. There was a large plaza that was flexibly designed with architectural aesthetics. There were cherry blossom trees that practically covered the entire school. There were even unique shaped pavilions. In terms of environment alone, there was no school that could surpass Holang School. Therefore, in normal times, these beautiful and freehand places would usually be occupied by students, and they would spend their free time there. Unfortunately, today was the end of the semester, and the students who had already completed the ascension ritual were allowed to go home and visit their families. As a result, there were many good places in the school today that were empty. With Noah in the lead, Lilith, Vivanli, Julie, Tachaba, Kujuturu, and Kurosaki Hokusaki gathered in a pavilion, either standing or sitting. Everyone in the group, including Noah, was looking at a document in their hands. It was given to everyone by the Three Kingdoms when they decided to participate in the field study arranged by 99th Lunar Night. Not only did it have the basic purpose of this study, the content, and various other introductions, it also had a different identity for each person here. 99th Lunar Night also said that for this study, Noah and the others did not need to perform protection tasks like the Guardian of the Tomb in the Dawn organization. Instead, they were disguised as members of the Guardian of the Tomb and attended the appreciation of Broken Feather as guests. The document had the identity that the Dawn organization arranged for Noah and the others. It was worth mentioning that when everyone present finished reading the document in their hands, or to be more precise, after reading the identity of the disguise described in the document, many people directly stared, their mouths twitched, then raised their heads and looked at each other. The entire scene fell into a strange silence. After a while, except for Lilith, everyone tacitly put the page of the document in their hands that recorded the identity of the disguise on the stone table in the pavilion. Noah, the young executive director of an unnamed company under the Dawn organization. Ivanli, the young executive director mate of the company. Julie, the young executive director mate of the company. The young executive director mate of the company. Tachaba, the young executive director mate of the company. Kujuru, the bodyguard of the young executive director. Hokusaki, the bodyguard of the young executive director. Are you playing with me? Hokusaki's fierce face showed an angry expression. Why should I be the young master's bodyguard? Bodyguard? Kujuru only sighed. It's not that hard to accept. Compared to the male side, the female side had a variety of reactions as well. Maid? Ivanley was shocked. The executive director maid? Isn't Noah the executive director? That means. Ye secretly glanced at Noah and blushed. Want to be Noah's maid? Julie tilted her head and looked like she was lost in thought. Head maid. Tachabé stared at Noah's face and muttered nervously. After a while, her face was completely red and she shouted at Noah in panic. Shameless. Noah was speechless. What the hell are you thinking about? Chapter 257. Why do we have to be your bodyguards? Inside the pavilion, Akui Tokusaki, who was leaning against a pillar, looked at Noah with dissatisfaction. Do I look like a bodyguard to you? Hearing this, everyone present turned their eyes to Kue Tokusaki. Then they looked at each other and burst out laughing. That was true. Although Kawai Tokusaki was a little short, he had a fierce face and a bad tone. He could definitely scare away a lot of timid people. For such a person to be a bodyguard, it wasn't unsuitable. Well, little tiger, am I not a bodyguard too? Ninefold Toru held back his laughter and patted Kawai on the shoulder. Also, being a bodyguard is not bad. At least I don't have to interact with those celebrities on the day of the appreciation party. This kind of appreciation party was like a ball. In order to expand their network, the celebrities gathered together would definitely interact with all kinds of people at the appreciation party. They would even find Noah and his group in disguise. In such a situation, if one's disguise was not good enough, or even if one did not look like a person from a prestigious family, not only would it be very embarrassing, it would also arouse suspicion. Furthermore, if it attracted the attention of a large number of people, then it would not achieve the purpose of secretly taking care of each other. It was also because of this that among the group, Noah, who had the highest rank, the strongest strength, the best temperament, and the most stable personality, was judged by 99 lunar nights to be suitable to be a celebrity in disguise. On the day of the appreciation party, everyone present was a celebrity. Therefore, if they wanted someone to hide their identity and sneak into the appreciation meeting, they would have to have someone with a high social status. Because of this, after the Dawn organization confirmed that Noah would participate in this mission, they immediately replaced the names of the directors of the companies not under the Dawn organization with Noah's name, allowing Noah to sneak into the appreciation party as a celebrity. As expected of the Dawn organization, they even have an anonymous company. I'm afraid they set it up to be useful in times like this, right? Orange Bar had a headache. By the way, isn't there Lilith among the celebrities? Lilith herself is a celebrity, right? That's exactly why it won't work. Lilith, who had been silent all this while, threw the document in her hand on the table and said with dissatisfaction and helplessness. Bristow is too famous. When everyone gathered around to take a look, they didn't know what to say. Indeed, Bristol was too famous. Everyone in the industry knew that the Bristol Company was one of the investors of the Dawn organization. Under such circumstances, even if Lilith attended the appreciation meeting, she would not be able to disguise herself as a guest and secretly take care of him. After all, everyone knew that the daughter of the president of Bristol was a member of the Dawn organization. How was he going to disguise himself? Therefore, Lilith's mission was different from that of Noah's group. Instead of taking care of them in secret, she directly appeared as the daughter of the Bristow family and gathered the attention of those who were interested in her, allowing Noah and the others to operate in secret. Noah, who had been silent all this time, rubbed his forehead and muttered to himself. He agreed to attend this field study in order to recover the world fragment. In other words, if there were unscrupulous people who would appear on the day of the appreciation meeting and want to make a move on the shattered feather, then Noah would be this so-called unscrupulous person. In this way, wouldn't Noah become the enemy of Lilith and the others in this mission? Noah secretly smiled bitterly in his heart, and at the same time, he also made up his mind. This time, he would quietly take action in the dark to recover the world fragment. Otherwise, if he directly touched the world fragment, the probability of meeting Lilith and the others was almost 100%. This must be avoided. Disguise? Let me disguise myself thoroughly. Lilith. Noah, who had made a decision in his heart, turned his head and looked at Lilith. You are attending the appreciation meeting as the daughter of the Bristow family. If there is really someone who wants to make a move on the shattered feather at the appreciation meeting, it is very likely that they will target you. You have to be careful. Hearing this, Lilith was startled, and then suddenly smiled. Are you concerned about me? What a gentle, double-edged sword these words made Evanli, Julie, Tachibana, and Ya react slightly. Their gazes were filled with disdain, vigilance, anger, shyness, and so on. They all cast their gazes on Noah. Lilith. Noah couldn't help but cover his face. Why are you talking about those things again? I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. Lilith smiled and hugged Noah's arm, put her face close to Noah's ear, and whispered words that made people think of graceful. Seeing that you are so gentle, tonight, I will give you a special thank you. As soon as he heard Lilith's words, Noah secretly said in his heart, not good. Hee hee. The contempt in Evanli's eyes became more and more intense. Not bad, right? Please let go. As if she was greatly stimulated, Julie copied Lilith and hugged Noah's other arm, her deep red eyes staring at Lilith. Noah will be very troubled. Jolie-chan. You blushed and was at a loss of what to do. You. Noah will also be troubled by you like this. As for Tachibana, he looked at Lilith, then at Julie, and then at Noah, who was tightly hugged by the golden girl and the silver girl. His pretty face was red, and he turned around and ran away hysterically. Noah, this shameless person. Noah felt that he had the right to feel tired, and also the right to express that he couldn't keep up with this group of people's thoughts. Undoubtedly, they were still talking about the mission a minute ago, and now it suddenly became like this. What are they trying to do? Ahaha. Ninefold Toru laughed mockingly and looked at Noah with a sympathetic gaze. You've been working hard. Humph. Kwai Hokusaki crossed her arms, turned her head, and threw out this sentence. Idiot. With these words as the conclusion, the day was still as noisy as ever. Of course, at night, Noah fell into a deep sleep, surrounded by the soft and delicate bodies of the two foreign beauties who represented the sun and the moon. The next day, at the school gate, Noah, Ninefold Toru, and Kwai Hokusaki were all there. However, the three of them weren't wearing their usual uniforms. Noah was wearing an extremely noble tuxedo. The hem of his black suit hung behind him like a swallow's tail. The tie in front of him had a pure gold buckle, and the leather boots on his feet sparkled under the sunlight. Coupled with Promise's otherworldly temperament, if not for the fact that he was standing in front of the school gate, he would have looked like a young master of a prestigious family. On the other hand, Kujituryu and Kawai Hokusaki were wearing standard suits and sunglasses. They looked like they were from the underworld, which made people not dare to compliment them. If the three of them stood together, it would give the impression of a rich young master and bodyguard. However, if the young master of a prestigious family and his bodyguard were to stand at the entrance of the school, it would seem somewhat out of place. This made Noah, Ninefold Toru, and Kwai Hokusaki a little uncomfortable. What was even more uncomfortable was that the three of them had to wear this outfit to take the monorail. They had to wait until they left the artificial island where the school was located before they could board the car specially prepared by the Dawn organization and go to the venue of the appreciation party. Wearing this to take the monorail. Fortunately, the monorail was only available to students from the school. Now that the students were on vacation, if they had to take the monorail in front of so many people, not to mention Ninefold Toru and Kwai Hokusaki, even Noah would want to die. Still not here yet. Kwai Hokusaki, who had the worst temper, complained for the umpteenth time. What the hell are those girls doing? The boys had already changed their clothes 20 minutes ago. Lilith and Sarah had already taken the helicopter to the venue. Only Ivanli, Julie, Tachibana, and Ya had yet to show up. Girls sure take a long time to change. Ninefold Toru pulled at his bow tie and sighed. Let's just endure it. Noah, who was wearing a tuxedo, crossed his arms and looked around in boredom. However, when his eyes inadvertently swept across the school, Noah's eyes widened and his mouth slightly opened. Over there, 4 girls were bashfully pushing and pulling each other as they slowly walked over. Chapter 258. The cherry blossoms slowly fell with the gentle breeze, like a pink and light curtain of rain, covering the entire school gate. Against the backdrop of the cherry blossoms, 4 wonderful girls walked over step by step. Some were embarrassed, some were curious, some were bashful, and some were unbearably bashful. Noah, Kawai, and Tokasaki, who were standing at the school gate, couldn't look away. The 4 girls were all beautiful and charming in various aspects. Their brown, silver, black, and brown hair swayed gently in the wind along with the pink cherry blossoms around them. Then, on the 4 girls, a set of clothes of the same color and style covered their delicate bodies. To be honest, whether it was Noah, Kawai, or Tokasaki, this was the first time they had seen that set of clothes. Tsukimi Glass Rabbits was a modified version. It was a black dress with a white apron. The style of the clothes was extremely simple. Undoubtedly, such a simple set of clothes, when worn by the beautiful girls, gave off a unique feeling that could attract the attention of the opposite sex. There was a bow on the back, and the edges of the apron and skirt were full of pleated lace. Even the girls wore white pleated hair rings on their heads. However, this wasn't the most eye-catching part. The most eye-catching part was that the skirt of the clothes only reached a little below the thighs. It was as if the private area that made a man's blood boil would be exposed at any time. Thus, Noah, who had been baptized by Lilith and Julie's naked bodies every night, had some immunity. Kawai and Tokasaki's faces turned red. Of course, although Noah's face didn't turn red, his gaze was also involuntarily attracted by the 4 girls in maid outfits. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Sensing Noah's gaze, the red-faced orange bar tugged at the hem of her skirt with all her might and shouted at Noah in shame and indignation. Don't stare. Ugh. Ya's face was also red as she pressed down on the hem of her skirt. What she didn't know was that this action of leaning forward made a pair of large soft places in front of her chest shake, causing Kawai and Tokasaki to reflexively cover their noses. Only Julia blinked her eyes and curiously looked at the clothes on her body, as if she was just curious. As usual, her shyness was completely different from the others, and she even seemed to be in a good mood. Ma. A hint of awkwardness also appeared on Ivanli's face, but she forced herself to remain calm and put on a fake smile. This is also a mission. She said it twice. It was as if she was reminding herself. However, this reminder woke up the group of pitiful men. Immediately, Totaru and Kawai Hokusaki turned their heads away awkwardly. They didn't dare to look at the group of girls again, fearing that they would lose their composure again. As for Noah, he bitterly smiled, and said, he had been silent for a long time. Even if it's for a mission, isn't this maid outfit a little too much? Although he hadn't seen anyone wear it before today, except for a certain rabbit's modified version, Noah knew that even maid outfits had more conservative styles. Ivanli, Julie, Tachiba, and Ya's outfits, although they weren't exactly revealing, would definitely attract the attention of the pitiful opposite sex. Mainly the lower half, of course. A large part of her upper body was also exposed, but it was mainly her neck and the sides of her collarbone, which were still passable. Only Ya's chest, which had an explosive figure, looked like it would burst at any time. Her clothes were pushed up high, and her cleavage was almost exposed. That's why I'm against wearing this shameless outfit, Tachibana said with tears in her eyes. But Tsukumi-sensei said this is the only outfit. Noah laughed dryly. Tsukumi-sensei. Did the rabbit prepare these clothes? That black-bellied rabbit must have purposely prepared this outfit for fun, right? If it was any other time, with Tachibana's calmness and intelligence, she would definitely be able to guess Tsukumi's sinister intentions. However, challenging a girl's heart like this was Tachibana's biggest weakness. Just a little bit was enough to make her lose her sense of propriety, causing her to explode with shame and lose her cool, falling for Tsukumi's trick. You don't like this outfit? Julie, who had been expressionless from start to finish, asked doubtfully. I think it's not bad, it's very cooling. Everyone was speechless. Does Julie, who is afraid of heat, only pay attention to this part of the clothes on my body? Ugh. You had to cover her upper half and lower half. Her face was already so red that tears were about to flow out. She secretly glanced at Noah, and when she realized that Noah's gaze was still on her, her face turned even redder, and she spoke in a low voice as if she was about to cry. Don't look, Noah quickly averted his gaze. Really, that's why I say you guys are really infuriating, Ivanli said in a huff, and it was obvious that he was targeting Noah. Hurry up and get on the tram, or we won't make it in time. Only then did Noah react. He adjusted his emotions, coughed dryly, and turned around. Okay, everyone, let's go. Yes. As if they were in character, the group of men and women nodded and responded. On the vast road, an extremely luxurious limousine was moving at a leisurely pace. Not long after, the luxurious limousine slowly slowed down and came to a stop in front of a luxurious hotel. Then, it stopped in front of a red carpet at the entrance. Gotcha. The sound of the door opening sounded. Wearing a suit and a pair of sunglasses, Kiryu Tsukumi and Oki Tokisaki immediately got off the car and came to the back door. One stood guard, and the other respectfully opened the door for Ivanli, Julie, Tachibana, and Ya to get off. Swish. At this moment, a group of men in black suits standing guard and patrolling around the hotel simultaneously turned their gaze over. Being stared at by those ferocious-looking men in black, whether it was Ivanli, Julie, Tachibana, Ya, Kijijuturiu, or Kawai Tokisaki, all of their hearts skipped a beat, and they became nervous. At this time, Noah got off the limousine. Under the gaze of the surrounding men in black, Noah looked around. His eyes were calm. After a while, he stepped on the red carpet and walked toward the entrance of the hotel. At this time, a man in black blocked in front of Noah. Dear guest, today's hotel has been booked for a special event that will last for 2 days. Therefore, today and tomorrow, we will only receive guests with invitations. I'm sorry, but do you have an invitation with you? Being stopped as soon as they came up, the group of girls and boys who were facing an extremely formal and high-end situation for the first time secretly became nervous. Fortunately, the surrounding people's eyes were all attracted by the otherworldly Noah. Their eyes involuntarily fell on Noah, and they did not pay attention to the group of maids and bodyguards. Noah glanced at the man in black blocking the way. Bah. Yes. Tachibana did not know if it was because of nervousness, but his voice was a little higher than usual. However, he still tried to suppress his inner nervousness, stepped forward, and took out an invitation. This appreciation party was organized by the Dawn organization. As people arranged by the Dawn organization, Noah and his group certainly did not have an invitation. Sorry, I'm sorry. After checking the invitation, the man in black immediately became respectful. He bent down and made a "please" gesture to Noah. Guest, please enter the venue first. The formal appreciation party will be held tomorrow. Today, we will entertain all of you. There will also be a ball in the evening. At that time, if you are interested, you can go to the ballroom on the 10th floor to participate. After saying that, the man in black retreated and was replaced by a young girl dressed as a waitress. This guest, please follow me. Noah nodded and walked into the hotel under the guidance of the waitress. Under the guidance of the waitress, Noah and his group arrived at the reception hall on the 5th floor. When the elevator door opened, in front of them, there were many people in noble suits looking over and sizing up Noah. Chapter 259. Who is that? He's quite young. So young, which famous family did he come from? Most of the people present were celebrities, or they were brought here by celebrities. For example, Noah, after disguising himself as the executive director of the unnamed company under the Dawn organization, he also brought Ivanli, Julie, Tachibana, and 2 bodyguards, Kyujituryu and Oki Hokasaki. Therefore, those who would be here were either celebrities or people under celebrities. After all, they were celebrities, so they wouldn't point and talk like passers-by. After looking at Noah, they began to guess Noah's identity, but they didn't discuss it. Although they didn't discuss it openly, the scrutinizing gazes that were cast in their direction from time to time made Ivanli, Tachibana, Yuji Kurosaki, and the others secretly nervous. Noah ignored those scrutinizing gazes and glanced around the entire venue. He only stopped when he saw the wall on the side. On both sides of the venue, there were people in black suits standing side by side on the left side of the wall. They were obviously bodyguards, and there was a group of maids standing side by side on the right side of the wall. Although the bodyguards and the maids were wearing the same clothes, there were still some differences between them. Noah understood what was going on. These bodyguards and maids should be brought here by the celebrities in the venue. With the identity of bodyguards and maids, there was naturally no way to enter the social circle of the celebrities. Therefore, the bodyguards and maids should be arranged to one side to wait for orders. Understanding this, Noah turned his head slightly and said to the group of young men and women, "You guys wait for orders first." The group of young men and women were slightly startled at first, but when they noticed the bodyguards and maids on both sides, they immediately understood and nodded in unison. However, except for Julie, there was still a trace of stiffness on everyone's face, as if they were still very nervous. Seeing this, Noah smiled. "Don't be nervous. In such an occasion, no one will communicate with bodyguards and maids. Bodyguards and maids don't dare to be sneaky in such a formal occasion. They will abide by the rules. You just stay there like those people. Don't talk. You just need to adapt to the situation." After saying this, Noah waved his hand and walked into the venue. His carefree attitude eased the tension in the hearts of the group of young men and women. "Amazing," Ye said with admiration. "He's just like a real celebrity. He's not nervous at all." "Undoubtedly, this is his first mission," Ivanli exclaimed. "That guy really does everything almost perfectly. Could it be that there's nothing he can't do? After all, double-tripping blades is a true young mistress. It's only natural that she would be affected." Orange Bar nodded his head in admiration and said in a low voice, "We'll do what Noah said. Just wait on the side and don't talk to anyone. This way, we won't expose our identities." Hearing this, the group of young women nodded. Under the lead of Orange Bar, who was the head maid in name, Ivanli held Julie's hand, who was looking around curiously. Together with Ya, they walked towards the group of maids on the right. Totoro and Owe Totoro had been watching Noah. When they saw Noah enter the venue with ease as if it was a matter of course, they looked at each other. Totoro and Owe Totoro looked at each other. Totoro and Owe Totoro looked at each other. Then, the two of them silently walked towards the group of bodyguards on the left and joined the group. Noah had participated in many occasions where all kinds of celebrities gathered together since he had lived in both worlds. Although his identity in the previous two worlds was special, he didn't interact with all kinds of people like a real celebrity. However, even if he hadn't eaten pork, how could he not have seen pigs run? Therefore, Noah was very comfortable in this kind of situation. After casually dealing with a few people who came over with wine glasses to make friends, Noah began to really look around the venue. Needless to say, Noah didn't know the people here. The only one he really knew was a young woman in the center of a lively circle in front of the venue. She was wearing a bright and gorgeous red dress. Almost everyone's eyes were focused on her. She stole the hearts and gazes of many people of the opposite sex and the same sex. She had a confident smile on her face as usual. She was surrounded by a strong sense of presence and charm. She was so gorgeous that she couldn't be more eye-catching. Her dazzling blonde hair was fixed to the left side of her head with a red hairband. It hung down like a ponytail. The young woman was surrounded by a circle of famous men and women. Her every move exuded a terrifying charm. She was like the center of the world, extremely dazzling. I believe that 90% of the people here, especially those young men, would be conquered by such a beautiful girl with a strong background, temperament, and strong temperament. They would unconsciously join that circle in an attempt to get a smile from the goddess, right? Not to mention, the young woman could basically be considered as the owner of today's and tomorrow's appreciation meeting. Looking at the young woman who gathered in the circle of famous men and women, chatting with a smile on her face while her eyes vaguely swept around as if she was looking for something, Noah shook his head with a smile. At this time, a voice sounded beside Noah. "You want to join that circle, right?" Following such a voice, a man wearing a noble tuxedo and holding a glass of red wine came to Noah's side and raised his glass to Noah in a friendly manner. "Let me introduce myself, I'm Bliss, from England. Just call me Noah." Noah also raised the glass full of red wine in his hand and clinked glasses with the man named Bliss. They both took a sip and got to know each other. In fact, with Noah's age, he was still not allowed to drink in this country. However, in countries like England, people usually started to drink when they reached Noah's age. Therefore, in such an occasion, except for the real brats, everyone would more or less drink a little due to their status. Although Noah didn't know much about drinking, he could be considered to have done as the Romans did. After getting to know each other, Bliss turned his gaze to the most lively circle at the front. He looked at the young woman in the center of the circle who was surrounded by people and said with envy, "That young lady is the daughter of the president of the very famous burritos company in our country. Every famous person in England knows her. Her status is not ordinary, and she's so beautiful. Generally, people without status wouldn't dare to go over even if they wanted to." Hearing this, Noah was a little surprised. Although he already knew that Lilith was a real young lady, Lilith seemed to be more famous than Noah thought, and her status was also more noble than he imagined. After all, everyone here was a celebrity. Even a celebrity said that people without status shouldn't go over there. It was imaginable how noble Lilith's status was. If you can talk to that young lady, it's also good. If you can make friends with that young lady, you can't earn more. And if you can win the heart of that young lady, I believe that as long as you are a man, you will be so happy that you want to die. Bliss sighed. Now, the people around that young lady are all from noble families. If you can't compare with them, then don't go over, or you will be a joke. Hearing this, Noah didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Bliss thought that Noah wanted to win Lilith's favor like those people around Lilith, so he came over to warn him. If Bliss knew that the goddess in his heart was sleeping on the same bed as the person beside him every day, and they were even taking off their clothes, how wonderful would his expression be? Just as Noah was about to say something to Bliss, a voice rang in his head. "Sure enough, you are also here. Undoubtedly, the content of the voice was polite, but the tone was full of arrogance and indifference. The very pretentious voice made Noah's eyes narrow, and he turned his head and looked behind him. What entered Noah's eyes was a white boy with a smile on his face and cold eyes. Chapter 260. Long time no see. Let's talk about this first. Not long ago, they were defeated by Noah's hands. The self-proclaimed God's destroyer troop K was not wearing the steel suit that they saw last time. Instead, he was wearing an ordinary suit with a tie. Looking at Noah standing in front of him, K had a smile on his face, but his cold eyes were staring at Noah. He said to Noah, "It's my honor to see you again so soon, Noah Doria." Noah, who turned around, gradually restrained his expression under K's cold eyes and fake smile. Why did K appear here? This question was not important. Ever since he knew that K was released by the 99th lunar night, Noah felt that K would appear in front of him again sooner or later. Therefore, although he was a bit surprised that K would appear in front of him at this time and place, Noah was not surprised and only smiled faintly. "Is that so? But I don't want to see you at all. You're still the same as before." K smiled indifferently. "You don't hold back at all when you speak. As expected of that young lady's partner." Saying this, K's gaze vaguely glanced in Lilith's direction, making Bliss, who was on the side, ask Noah in a daze. "That, your friend?" "No." Noah shook his head. "We can't be considered friends." "Indeed, we can't be considered friends." K smiled at Bliss in a friendly manner. "You should be considered an opponent, right?" "Opponent?" Noah was a bit sarcastic. "Only those who are evenly matched can be considered an opponent, right? Can you be considered my opponent?" What he meant was that K did not have the qualifications to be his opponent. Regarding this, K still smiled indifferently, but the air around him became a bit colder, making Bliss shiver. For Bliss, who lived an ordinary life like a rich family's child, it was impossible for him to know the reason why the air around him suddenly became cold. This was because Bliss couldn't sense the source of the chilling aura emanating from K's body-killing intent. Of course, just because Bliss couldn't feel the killing intent didn't mean that he couldn't feel the bad atmosphere between Noah and K. At that moment, Bliss pretended to laugh freely and raised the cup in his hand. "Since the two of you are old acquaintances, then I won't disturb the two of you. See you at the ball tonight. Take care." Noah and K also raised their glasses at Bliss and watched him leave. After Bliss's departure, the atmosphere around Noah and K became even worse. However, in this terrible atmosphere, K retracted his murderous aura and bowed pretentiously to Noah. "Please allow me to introduce someone to you." While saying this, K moved his body to the side, allowing Noah's gaze to pass through his original position and look behind him. There was a thin old man in his 70s wearing a white coat. It was unknown whether he was a doctor or a scholar, but he was walking towards them step by step with a cane. The old man's hair was so white that it was impossible to see his original hair color. However, from the other party's blue eyes and high nose, hidden behind the glasses that resembled reading glasses, the other party should also be a Westerner. Looking at the Westerner old man slowly walking in front of him, Noah stared at him for a while. When the old man was in front of him, Noah smiled. His smile was full of evil intentions. "Equipment Smith." The old man was stunned. Even K was stunned. It was obvious that he didn't expect Noah to suddenly say this name. Upon seeing their reactions, Noah confirmed his guess and curled his lips into a smile. "Looks like I guessed right." "Guessed?" The old man recovered from his shock. He narrowed his eyes and laughed out loud. In the beginning, when K reported that the person who defeated him and the 10-man team of God's destruction team was a student, I was still curious as to what kind of person he was. So that's how it is, that's how it is. You are even more outstanding than I thought. You can call me Edward. The old man who called himself Edward, but in reality, he was the same as the 99th lunar night. He developed a method that allowed people to obtain power that surpassed humans. The power of the God Destroyer team has been demonstrated a few days ago. It was created by strengthening the body with the battle suit known as the equipment steel. What do you think? It's not bad compared to you surpassers, right? Hearing this, Noah frowned. In terms of strength alone, the God's Destroyer squad that was equipped with the steel suit was indeed not weak. At least, from the standard of surpassers, the God Destroyer team that could match the level 2 surpassers did have a considerable amount of power. But, what does this have to do with me? Noah spread out his hands. I'm just a student. Even if I admit that the God Destroyer team is not inferior to a normal surpasser, what's the use? Whether you're a student or not, you're still a surpasser. As an individual with the power of surpassers, you're the most suitable person to evaluate my equipment steel. Edward seemed to be eager for recognition as he spoke to Noah enthusiastically. Moreover, you seem to be a very special individual. You are qualified to comment on my pretending to be steel. Although he said this, his face was full of enthusiasm, but Edward's words of individual had already exposed his inner thoughts. Obviously, to Edward, Noah Doria was only an individual that he was interested in. Rather than saying that Edward treated Noah as a target for evaluation, it was more accurate to say that he treated Noah as a reference to compare with his own invention. If that's the case, then let me tell you my opinion. Noah suddenly smiled and said this. Something that can only match a group of level 2 students, no matter how you look at it, it can't be considered good, right? Edward's smile froze, but after a while, he recovered and laughed. Indeed, it's just a half-finished product that hasn't been adjusted. Moreover, although the ones wearing it are trained soldiers, they're still just normal humans. Normal humans. Noah looked straight at Edward. What do you mean by that? My meaning is very simple. Edward chuckled, but his eyes behind his glasses were fixed on Noah. There was a trace of fanaticism in his eyes. Do you want to come to my side? The surrounding air became slightly heavy, from the original vile atmosphere to somewhat heavy. Noah held the glass, sipped the red wine, and said casually. You want to rope me in? I want to see what level of power you can obtain after wearing the armored steel. Edward's tone was somewhat excited. A group of normal soldiers wearing my armored steel can obtain power similar to a surpasser. If you, as a surpasser, were to wear the armored steel, under the double enhancement of the daybreak star pattern, and armored steel, how high would your strength be? Hearing this, Noah's heart was slightly moved, but after thinking about it, he calmed down. Even the daybreak star pattern, that could strengthen the human body and spirit, could not give him any more power. How much power would the armored steel, which could only strengthen the body, give him? Originally, Noah's body was already strong to the point that the daybreak star pattern could not strengthen it much. He believed that even if he changed to armored steel, it would still be the same. With this thought, Noah glanced at Edward. Sorry, I'm not interested. Your will is quite firm. As a student, you can actually not be tempted by power. The excitement on Edward's face disappeared little by little, and he looked at Noah with deep meaning. However, I haven't given up on the idea of combining a surpasser and a God's destroyer. Leaving this sentence, Edward took the silent K and left. Looking at the back of the two people, Noah curled his lips, but his heart was in deep thought. Chapter 261. The appraisal of the mysterious shattered feather held by the Dawn organization would be officially held tomorrow. Today, in addition to the ball in the evening, the main purpose was to let the celebrities from various countries who came to participate in the appraisal to gather together. 99 lunar nights would appear and say one or two opening remarks as a welcome. Then, 99 lunar nights would let the celebrities who came to participate in the appraisal return to their prearranged rooms to rest. At this time, Noah was in a luxurious suite in the hotel. However, this room was not Noah's, but Lilith's. Under Sarah's unwilling support, Noah sneaked into Lilith's room in order to not expose his identity. He told Lilith about his encounter with Equipment Smith and Kay at the venue. They really came. Lilith, who was still wearing a brightly colored dress and had changed her hairstyle, sat on the edge of the bed with the aura of a noble lady. Her face showed an expression that said it was expected. Blaze Diabolica, special, and the extremely mysterious Shattered Feather. With so many elements that could move that person, it would be strange if they didn't come. I see, Noah looked at Lilith in a daze. She did not show any signs of surprise. After a while, he sighed. Did you already know that they would come? In fact, if he thought about it carefully, it was natural that Lilith would not be surprised by Edward and Kay's appearance. After all, Edward and Kay's appearance was completely predictable. According to some information revealed by Kay, when he wanted to kidnap Lilith, the person standing behind Kay, Edward, who developed Equipment Smith, had a motive for wanting to obtain 99 lunar nights and Lilith. Kay said that he kidnapped Lilith mainly because the security around 99 lunar nights was too tight. It was not easy to obtain, so he made a move on Lilith in an attempt to negotiate with the Dawn organization through Lilith. Now that he thought about it, Noah felt that the so-called negotiation and the purpose of wanting to obtain 99 lunar nights should be for the Dawn Star rune. To be more precise, it should be to obtain the Surpasser. This was because Edward had said that he wanted to combine the Transcendents and the God Destroyers. Thus, Edward and Kay came to this appreciation party. Needless to say, 99 lunar nights and Lilith were here, and Shattered Feather was a mysterious item that even the Dawn organization could not decipher. Regardless of whether it was to achieve his goal or to satisfy his curiosity as a researcher, Edward would still come. After all, the security around the 99 lunar nights would definitely not be as tight as it was in the academy. More or less, he would be able to find an opportunity to make a move. Who the hell is that old guy? Noah looked at Lilith. If Blaze Diabolica refers to 99 knights who researched the Daybreak Star pattern and created the Surpasser, and Equipment Smith refers to Edward who developed the steel installation and created the God's Destroyer, then are there other people who are researching the power that surpasses humans? Lilith fell silent. Seeing Lilith's reaction, Noah knew that he had hit the nail on the head. Ever since Kay had appeared with the God's Destroyer team, Noah had been suspecting that since there were God's Destroyer existences that surpassed humans, then were there other people in this world who were researching the same power. The facts proved that Noah's guess was indeed accurate. At that moment, Noah did not say anything more. He just looked at Lilith and waited for Lilith's answer. After a period of stifling silence, Lilith spoke up after an unknown amount of time. Equipment Smith, real name Edward Walker, is a research expert who is proficient in mechanical engineering. In addition to being good at developing engines and propulsion systems, he is also dedicated to the development of artificial muscles. Miss. On the side, Sarah, who had been silent, suddenly became anxious. That is the secret of the Dawn organization. So, I won't say it a second time. Lilith casually dropped this sentence, making Sarah speechless. She continued to speak as if nothing had happened. Edward was originally the second in command of the Dawn organization's development bureau. This sentence made Noah somewhat stunned. Edward, who wanted to kidnap the 99th lunar night and kidnap Lilith to negotiate with the Dawn organization in an attempt to obtain the Dawn Star pattern, was the second in command of the Dawn organization's development bureau. When he was still in the Dawn organization, Edward strongly advocated the development of external skeletal attire that subverted the knowledge of the past, but he could not get the understanding and recognition of those around him. Lilith picked up a cup of milk tea and drank it little by little. The reason is very simple. Because the concept proposed by Edward is fundamentally different from the Dawn organization's research on the power of the soul. How could it be understood and recognized by others? Noah nodded. The final product of Edward's research on external skeletal attire, equipment steel. It was like a piece of equipment, worn on the body, and through the strengthening of the equipment, it would increase the strength of the person. Although the Dawn Star pattern was a nanomachine, it could also be regarded as a piece of equipment worn on the body. However, its root was to draw out the power of the soul, so that the owner's body, spirit, and other aspects could be improved. The two, one focused on external, one focused on internal, and there was no place for them to meet. So, 12 years ago, Edward suddenly disappeared, and since then, his whereabouts have been unknown. Lilith took a sip of milk tea and continued. The second in command of the organization disappeared, and even the information that was still in research and had already been developed were all deleted by him. This caused a lot of chaos in the Dawn organization at that time, and it also brought a lot of trouble. But now, it seems that the trouble this old man brought was bigger than expected. Noah also laughed bitterly. Because of the difference in ideology, they parted ways. Noah had seen this kind of situation many times in the world of the Dark Bullet. Not to mention other things, Xingtianzi and Chiwu Zhongshuan were fundamentally different in ideology, which caused the two people to be destined to walk two paths that were absolutely impossible to cross, and also impossible to walk together. Indeed, as you said, in addition to the surpassers and God's destroyer, there are other existences in this world that can surpass human beings. Lilith put down the cup of milk tea in her hand and looked directly at Noah. Because, in addition to the Blaze Diabolica, who created the surpassers, and the equipment smith, who created the God's destroyer, in this world, there are 5 other people who are researching the power that surpasses human beings. 7 luminaries, reign. Lilith spat out this unknown title. That is the title of the researchers with the absolute duo as the core. Blaze Diabolica and Equipment Smith are 2 of them. After that, Lilith took a deep breath and sighed again. Now, the person who is about to bring us trouble is such a person. Noah, who quietly slipped out of Lilith's room, walked in the corridor back to his room and fell into deep thought. 7 luminaries, reign. I'm afraid that's the real source of the mystery that brought unknown to this world. Knowing this, Noah's last doubts about this world dissipated. To be honest, Noah was quite interested in what kind of power the other members of the 7 luminaries, reign, possessed that could surpass human beings. However, as members of the 7 luminaries, reign, the power that the 99 lunar knights and Edward had mastered could not bring him any improvement, then presumably, the other members of the 7 luminaries, reign, should be the same, right? Besides, Noah did not have time to continue to explore the power of the other 7 luminaries, reign. Turning his head, looking out the window, looking at the gradually darkening sky, Noah whispered softly. After all, after getting the world fragment, I have to leave. Chapter 262. Walla Dash. The sound of water echoed in the quiet space filled with mist. In the spacious bathtub, Julie's long silver hair stuck to her smooth skin. Her body was soaking in the water. She squinted her eyes, and her emotionless delicate face entered an extremely relaxed state. She even exhaled contentedly. So comfortable, isn't it? Ivan leaned against the side of the bathtub. Even under the cover of the mist and ripples, his beautiful figure still faintly showed his beautiful side. He looked at Julie, who had a comfortable expression on her face, and narrowed his eyes in pleasure. as expected of the luxurious hotel chosen by the Dawn organization. It's unfair that such a large bathtub is only used by those celebrities. After being led to the prearranged room by the attendants would inform the celebrities who came to participate in the appreciation party of the existence of the bathtub. As the hotel's most famous bathtub, the celebrities who came to participate in the appreciation party today and tomorrow had the opportunity to enjoy themselves in this large bathtub. Of course, it was only limited to those with noble status. As for the maids, Ivanli, Julie, Tachibana, and Ya, the four of them were not allowed to enter the bathtub. Therefore, the group of girls all snuck in. Under Ivanli's instigation, including Tachibana and Ya. Tachibana tied her long black hair into a ponytail and soaked in the bathtub, not to be outdone, showing off her delicate body that was not inferior to Ivanli's. Her white skin was covered with water droplets, and half of her body was submerged in the water. She couldn't help but let out a satisfied sound. However, very quickly, Tachibana's face was filled with worry. "But, is it okay if we just come in?" "Yes." Ya hugged her body, curled up, and stayed in the corner of the bathtub. She said uneasily, "Isn't it only the celebrities who can come in? Can't we come in?" Don't worry. Ivanli smiled at Tachibana and Ya. "Before coming, I already asked the attendants. During this time, the celebrities are in their rooms choosing the dresses they need for the ball tonight. At least, no one will come here for at least an hour." The hair on Julie's head shook. "Can we monopolize this bathtub?" That's right. Ivan nodded and said regretfully, "Although it's only an hour, I think it's better for us to get out of here as soon as possible." Orange Bar, who was the most composed, shook his head. "Maybe there will be maids and bodyguards who sneak in like us." Ivan didn't seem to have thought of this, and he began to stammer. "There shouldn't be, right? You're not even sure yourself, are you?" Orange Bar glared at Ivanli and grew nervous. "It can't be that a boy will suddenly barge in, right?" As soon as he said this, the entire bath fell into an indescribable silence. Because this was entirely possible. There was only one luxurious bath in the entire hotel. Therefore, the hotel staff would specify which time period was for the men to use and which time was for the women to use. The time period where Ivanli, Julie, Tachibana, and Ya were in had not been arranged. If there was any arrangement, it would be the "if not available" time period. If there was someone like Ivanli, Julie, Tachibana, and Ya who wanted to sneak in to enjoy themselves, it was entirely possible that it was a boy. At this moment, the group of four girls began to feel uneasy. We should hurry up," Ivanli said with a smile. We still have work to do later." Yeah, Julie was the first to nod. Looking at her blushing face, she was definitely worried that her delicate body would be seen by the opposite sex. That's right. Tachibana immediately rubbed her body with her face flushed red, as if a boy would barge in if she washed too slowly. "Everyone, hurry up. Hurry up." Ya didn't say anything, and only nodded vigorously. In order to wash her body, Ya finally let go of the hands that had been protecting her body. As soon as she let go, Yago, who had the best figure among the girls, was seen by all of the girls. Looking at Suego who was hiding in the corner, Ivanli, Julie, and Tachibana all fell silent. Ya's face was completely red, and she hurriedly extended her hands to protect her body again. She pressed her body into the water, and even half of her face was soaked in the water, blowing bubbles. The silence lasted for 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, Julie, who was staring at Ya's chest with her deep red eyes, said innocently, "Ya's are really big, they look fine." Jolie-chan. Ya blushed and bashfully soaked her face in the water. Ivanli and Tachibana looked at each other, and finally put on a fake smile. "Let's hurry up and wash." "Yeah, hurry up and wash." With that said, Ivan and Tachibana began to wash their bodies stiffly. At this moment, a voice sounded outside the bathtub. "This is the bathtub that the waiter mentioned, right?" The group of girls, including Julie, all sucked in a cold breath. After returning to the room, Noah didn't see Ivanli, Julie, Tachibana, Enya, which made Noah a bit distressed. Ninefold Turyu and Oki Hokusaki, who disguised themselves as bodyguards, needed to patrol the surrounding area with the other celebrities' bodyguards. And the group of girls who came with Noah as maids needed to help their nominal master, namely Noah, pick out the costumes for the evening ball. However, Noah only left for a while to go to Lilith's room, and when he returned, the girls were gone. Were they ordered to take care of the tomb guards in the Dawn organization at the last minute? Noah, who couldn't choose a costume and didn't believe in his own eyes, could only walk out of the room gloomily. "Forget it, I'll go take a bath first." The waiters were full of praise for the hotel's bathtub. Since the girls weren't there, Noah simply went to enjoy the big bathtub, which was also good. Presumably, as long as he told the waiters in the hotel would open the unoccupied bathtub for Noah alone. This was the so-called benefit of being a celebrity. Being able to enjoy privileges that ordinary people didn't have. Even if one person used the bathtub, it would be too big. And indeed, Noah obtained the right to use the bathtub just by telling the waiters. Looking at the huge space in front of him that seemed to be built with marble, and the endless hot water flowing from the wolf-shaped carvings carved on the pillars, filling the whole space with steam, Noah's mood suddenly became better. Without hesitation, Noah quickly took off his clothes and soaked in the bathtub. The temperature of the water wasn't high, and it was controlled just right, so Noah's cold skin quickly warmed up. Phew! Soaking in the bathtub, Noah breathed a sigh of relief, closed his eyes, and his heart became active. The shattered feather, defined by the Dawn organization. That was the purpose of Noah coming to this world. As long as he obtained the world fragment named Shattered Feather, Noah's fundamental purpose of coming to this world would be achieved. Now, the world fragment was in this hotel that was as big as a building. And in order to not have a conflict with Ivan, Julie, Lilith, Tachiba, and Enya who stood on the side of the Dawn organization, Noah must obtain the world fragment without exposing his identity. Unfortunately, this world probably wouldn't give Noah any more hints regarding the world fragment. Because the world had no way to interfere with the world. At this time when Noah was closest to the world fragment, the world had no way to give Noah any hints. Therefore, Noah had to find the location of the world fragment by himself. As he thought about it, Noah came to a decision. Let's try to find it in the hotel tonight. After making such a decision, Noah began to plan for the night's action. Pop! Suddenly, beside the bathtub, a somewhat loud sound of water echoed. And Noah, who was thinking about the action at night, froze, frowned, turned his head, and looked in the direction of the sound. Chapter 263. Bo 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 bo. Noah turned his gaze to the source of the sound and saw that behind a thick stone pillar, the water surface was bubbling with a loud, splashed sound. Bubbling. Noah's face showed a suspicious look. Is the bathtub broken? If Noah had unleashed his superb sensing ability, he definitely wouldn't have thought so. Unfortunately, under the situation where he didn't sense any danger, hostility, or abnormality, Noah wouldn't activate his sensing ability immediately. It was also because he didn't sense any danger, hostility, or abnormality that Noah suspected that the bathtub was broken. Thus, Noah stood up from the bathtub and walked over. Because of the shadow near the pillar, Noah couldn't see very clearly. However, the water behind the pillar was bubbling more and more intensely. Noah could still see it clearly. Noah, who thought that the bathtub was broken, stretched out his hand towards the bubbling water, and reached into the water, trying to touch the broken part. Pio. In the next second, Noah's palm seemed to have grabbed something. Bo 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 bo. In an instant, the bubbles on the water became more lively. What is this? Noah was slightly stunned. The water in front of Noah also kept bubbling, and it became more and more intense. At this time, Noah's expression began to stiffen, and his face also broke out in a cold sweat. Voila! Just at the moment when Noah woke up, under the crazily bubbling water in front of him, two heads finally popped out. Looking at the figure that suddenly appeared in front of him and the scene that was imprinted in his eyes, Noah was petrified. In front of Noah, Ivania and Nya, whose hair was tied up, were completely naked. Their pretty faces were flushed, and while they were gasping for fresh air, their eyes and faces gradually revealed an expression of shame and anger. The air froze. Still not stopping. Yeah. Wah 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 wah. In the huge bathtub, Ivania's shameful screams and Nya's extremely shy screams sounded at the same time. By the way, the weird screams came from Orange Bar, who popped out of the water behind Ivania and Nya. What a pervert. Big pervert. Don't you have the most basic sense of shame as a human? In a luxurious room in the hotel, Ivania and Orange Bar, who were wearing maid uniforms again, glared at Noah, who was sitting on the sofa. Their faces were full of indignation, and spat out insults without offensive power or novelty, which made Noah's face was full of helplessness, and his face was full of bitterness. Julie and Nya were both changed faces, but they was not as indignant as Ivania and Orange. Julie's pretty face was slightly flushed. Clearly, even though she often slept naked next to Noah like Lilith, it didn't mean that this emotionless girl wasn't shy. After Nya came back from the bathroom, she used her hands to cover her body that couldn't be completely covered. Tears hung from the corners of her eyes, and her pretty face was completely red. From time to time, she would secretly peek at Noah, and the more she peeked, the redder her face became. Looking at Ivania and Orange Bar, who were angrily lecturing him, Noah could only raise his hands in surrender. Didn't I say that I didn't do it on purpose? Even if you didn't do it on purpose, it's a fact that you saw our bodies. Orange Bar, who wasn't good at dealing with this kind of thing between the opposite sex, kept blushing, and was even a little flustered. No matter what. You have to be careful. I'm starting to wonder if you did it on purpose. Ivania poked Noah's cheek and said. Speaking of which, when we first entered the school and formed the temporary double-tripping blade, you saw my body naked in the dorm. You even occupied the right to sleep with my Julie and became the official, double-tripping blade, with a super beautiful girl like Lilith, and we slept together every night. That's too much. WH. What? Orange Bar turned pale with fright and shouted at Noah. You're shameless. Wait. Noah widened his eyes and said to Ivania in shock. Forget about the first part, but the later part with Lilith doesn't seem to have anything to do with you, right? What do you mean it doesn't have anything to do with me? Ivania first stuck out his tongue and then said in a serious tone. As a friend, I can't watch you go down a path of no return. Then I'm sorry, I still have some self-control in this aspect. Noah's mouth twitched, and he narrowed his eyes and looked at Ivania in annoyance. Speaking of which, on the night when we first entered the school, in the dorm, if you didn't run out of the bathroom by yourself and didn't grab Julie, then I wouldn't have seen everything, right? Ivania was speechless. Noah looked at Julie, Orange Bar, and Nya separately, and his tone became even more annoyed. This time, it seems like you all sneaked into the big bathtub and became like that, right? This time, even Julie, Orange Bar, and Nya were speechless. Strictly speaking, they were taken advantage of and seen naked. It could only be said that Ivania, Julie, orange bar, and you deserved it. After all, not only did the four of them sneak into the bathtub, but after hearing Noah's voice, they actually foolishly chose to hide in the water. As a result, the four of them were seen naked by Noah, and Ivania and Ya's breasts were played with. At that time, if the four of them made a slight noise, Noah would still be outside the bathtub and wouldn't have gone in, and the rest wouldn't have happened. Of course, it couldn't be said that Noah wasn't wrong. No, it should be said that Noah was also at fault. After all, Noah had a sensing ability that was almost like a radar, able to scan everything within a very wide range. Although this sensing ability couldn't allow Noah to see everything clearly within the range of the sensing ability, it could almost detect the shapes and auras of all kinds of existences. For example, if there was a rock within the range of the sensing ability would give Noah feedback of the rock's outline and information. Even if there was no way to see it, Noah would still know what it was. Another example was if a person appeared within Noah's sensing range, Noah would be able to detect the other party's aura, presence, and even location. This function was indeed like a radar scanning. Even if he couldn't know the specific appearance, he could roughly know the other party's location and outline, and determine what the existence was. Therefore, if Noah could activate his sensing ability when he saw the bubbles and detect the auras of the group of girls, he could have avoided everything on the spot. However, regarding the sensing ability, not to mention the fact that the girls didn't know about it, even if they knew, they couldn't blame Noah. Therefore, it was indeed a self-inflicted wound. No matter what, you're the one who's taking advantage of me. Ivanli could only use the girl's unreasonable manner. You have to forget everything that happened in the bathtub. After being reminded by Ivanli, Noah reflexively recalled the beautiful scene he saw in the bathtub. Ivanli's slender and beautiful body that was both familiar and unfamiliar. Julie's tender and fair body. Orange Bar was full of charm, with a curvaceous figure. As well as Ya's pair of perfect figures that no one could ignore. Then, Noah discovered it. He had a good relationship with himself and had always been more active around him. He had actually seen the bodies of Ivanli, Julie, Lilith, Orange Bar, and Ya. When he was young, he had also seen the bodies of Mira and Lisanna. In another world, he had also seen Muging's delicate body. Could it be that he had another kind of physique that was destined to see the bodies of the opposite sex that he had a good relationship with? Unfortunately, Alusha had a good relationship with him, and the Holy Son of Heaven had even revealed his admiration for him. These two girls, why hadn't he seen their bodies? At the same time that this thought appeared in his mind, Noah didn't know what he was feeling right now. Regret? Speechlessness? Or was it both? Chapter 264. Even at night, the hotel was still brightly lit. However, this brightly lit situation did not occur on the top floors of the hotel. This was because on one of the floors, the shattered feather that was going to appear in tomorrow's auction was placed there. In the dimly lit floor, every corridor was filled with the echoes of footsteps. Those were the footsteps of the surpassers, who were wearing the special guard uniform of the Mausoleum Guardians of the Dawn organization's way-in unit, patrolling the area. In the dim corridors that looked like giant beasts, almost every corridor was patrolled by the Guardians of the Dawn organization. After graduating from the academy, all of them were rank 3 surpassers. Moreover, there would definitely be rank 4 surpassers. However, rank 4 surpassers were different from rank 3 surpassers. The combat strength of a level 4 warrior who had unlocked the true power of Blaze was not something a level 3 warrior could compare to. Therefore, among the Tomb Guardians who were at least rank 3 surpassers, rank 4 surpassers were usually dispatched as team leaders and would not participate in the patrols. In a dark corner of a dimly lit corridor, Noah's back was against the wall. He tilted his head and calmly observed the patrolling teams. His deep black pupils slightly flickered. At this time, Noah was wearing a deep black shirt and trousers. On the outside, he was also wearing a black hooded jacket. The hood of the jacket was pulled up and placed on his head, covering everything above his nose. He perfectly blended in with the surrounding darkness. It was believed that even if Ivanli, Julie, Lilith, and other girls who were very familiar with Noah were here, they would not be able to recognize Noah. Not to mention, the group of girls were not here, they were at the ball. In order to avoid spending time with the group of girls, Noah purposely chose this time when the ball was about to start. He found an excuse to escape the ball at night and sneak into the upper floor of the hotel. Because he still needed to take care of the tomb guardians, Ivanli, Julie, Tachibana, and Ya were all in the ballroom. Kyuj and Oki were also the same. After successfully escaping, Noah changed into a set of clothes that would allow him to easily hide his identity and sneak into the upper floor of the hotel. The security here was extremely tight. In addition to the tomb guardians who were wearing police uniforms and patrolling the corridors, Noah could also occasionally rely on his sensing ability to detect some hidden defensive systems in the corridors that could not be seen with the naked eye. For example, pinhole surveillance cameras. Another example was the red lines that could only be seen by Noah's sensing ability. Infrared rays. Noah closed his eyes as he sensed the corridors. He sneered in his heart. Unfortunately, this will make it easier for me to find them. Noah did not doubt that the Dawn organization had the ability to install infrared rays in a hotel. However, it was impossible for the Dawn organization to fill every place with infrared rays. Otherwise, there would be no need for patrols. Therefore, the infrared rays played the role of a road sign. After all, the infrared rays must be placed on the correct path to the broken feather. Then, the words of the two patrolling tomb guardians confirmed Noah's guess. It's really boring, why are we assigned to patrol the periphery? There's nothing we can do about it. Who told us to not be strong enough? Look at those rank 4 seniors. They can be on guard inside the infrared rays, and they only need to guard one place. They don't need to be like us, going around in circles. Yeah, it would be great if we could be promoted to rank 4, become a captain, give orders, and don't even need to patrol and guard. It's not that easy. Rank 4 has a lot of mental requirements, but the physical requirements are relatively small. I don't even know how to train my mental strength. That's right. Noah, who was hiding in the corner, easily heard these words. He looked at the direction where the infrared rays were more concentrated. This is just the periphery. The closer to the infrared rays, the closer to the broken feather. However, the closer I get to the location of the shattered feather, the tighter the security will be, and the tomb guardians there will definitely be stronger as well. There might even be level 4 or level V. Even if I can rely on my sensing ability to avoid the infrared rays, I still have to be careful not to be discovered. Immediately, Noah sneaked into the darkness, and when the patrolling tomb guardians turned the corner, his figure suddenly flew out. Whoosh! Like a ghostly shadow, Noah instantly flashed into the dim corridor. As if he had a pair of eyes in the sky, he nimbly twisted his body a few times, avoiding the infrared rays one by one, and swept into the infrared rays. The whole process took less than a second. The patrolling tomb guardians didn't notice at all. In this way, Noah specially drilled into the places with infrared rays. While turning a blind eye to all the infrared rays, he also paid attention to the pinhole cameras hidden in places that others could not see. As Noah moved forward, the infrared rays became more and more concentrated, the patrolling personnel also increased, and the security became more and more strict. A burst of rhythmic footsteps came. One by one, the tomb guardians with stern eyes patrolled back and forth in the corridor. With his sensing ability, Noah easily judged the strength of these tomb guardians from their aura. Although they are still rank 3, these are the elites of rank 3. The rank 3 patrolling the periphery is much weaker than them. Noah thought. This also proves that I'm getting closer and closer to the world fragment. With his sensing ability, no one's position could be hidden from Noah. Therefore, Noah was able to accurately choose a clever place to hide, and easily avoid the sight of the patrolling tomb guardians. Soon, Noah came to a corner. Looking through the wall, Noah could clearly see what was in front of him. At the end of the corridor, there was a door. On both sides of the door, 2 tomb guardians stood there like guards, not moving at all. It's there. Noah's eyes lit up while hiding in the corner. The world fragment must be there. But, how do I get there? Noah was distressed. Those 2 tomb protectors are guarding the entrance. How can I sneak in? Don't tell me that I have to resort to violence. This was also an option. He didn't need to kill the tomb guardians guarding the world fragment. As long as he stunned them or shot them with his revolver, it would be fine. In any case, if the blaze didn't have killing intent, it wouldn't cause any physical harm. It would only cause a mental and spiritual impact, so Noah didn't need to be afraid. With this thought in mind, Noah deliberately suppressed the light and flames of the star pattern that appeared when the blaze materialized his revolver. This technique of eliminating the phenomenon caused by the materialization of blaze was something that Noah had figured out while he was secretly training his limit ability so that he wouldn't be like the last time when he was facing the zucchini hare, where he couldn't unseal the power of limit in time at the critical moment. Originally, this technique was useless, but who knew that it would come in handy at this time? After playing with the gun for a while, Noah raised the revolver in his hand and used his jacket to cover the body of the gun in his hand. Bang bang. Og. Ah. After the 2 gunshots were muffled by the jackets, 2 muffled sounds could be heard. Bang. In the sound of the 2 tomb guardians falling to the ground, one after the other, they were paralyzed on the ground. It was likely that they wouldn't wake up for at least 1 or 2 hours. Almost at the same time, Noah walked out of the corner, and in a flash, he arrived at the door. Paw! With a light sound, the door opened and closed, and Noah entered the door. Chapter 265. This was an extremely spacious room. It was like a research facility. The ground was made of stone bricks that were as cold as steel. The walls were the same. Even the ground seemed to have electric wiring. From time to time, flashes of lightning would appear, giving people the illusion that they had entered a research facility. Noah activated his sensing ability and scanned the room. He found that there were no pinhole cameras or infrared rays. There were only glass cabinets with items placed in them. The glass cabinets were filled with valuable items that were worth collecting. Those were the items that were prepared to be gifted to the celebrities who came to participate in the appreciation convention. It would be too much to say that every item here was priceless, but it was not something that could be casually bought from a roadside stall. It was enough to enter the eyes of those celebrities. Therefore, if all the items here were to be sold, then it would definitely be enough for a normal person to spend the rest of their life lavishly. It was believed that in this country, only the Dawn organization, which was equivalent to the country's underground organization, had the ability to spend such a large amount of money and extravagantly give away the items here. Unfortunately, Noah did not even look at these items that could be considered valuable, but as if his mind was enlightened, he raised his eyes and looked at the front. In the innermost part of the spacious room, there was a copper platform placed alone. On top of the copper platform, there was a square glass cabinet the size of a soccer ball placed on top of it. Inside the football-sized cube glass cabinet, a crystal ball lay quietly inside. Inside, there was a feather that seemed to have been cut off at the root, with only half of it remaining. The feather released a weak white light. Ding! Just as Noah raised his eyes and looked at the world fragment, the white light on the world fragment skyrocketed, as if it had sensed Noah's arrival. At the same time, it released a dazzling white light, and at the same time, it trembled and made a light crisp sound. Just like those feathers in the world fragment, the white light of the world fragment was filled with emotions that only Noah could feel. Joy. Feeling the emotions of the world fragment, Noah's calm heart also surged with a trace of excitement. For Noah, who was extremely adept at controlling his emotions, other than the world and the world fragment, there were very few factors that could so easily stir up his emotions. However, this was not a bad thing. Although he didn't know why, Noah only needed to know that these emotions came from the bottom of his heart, and that was enough. After suppressing the excitement in his heart, Noah took a deep breath and lifted his foot. Whoo! Just as Noah was about to step forward and collect the world fragment, a gust of wind suddenly sounded. A long whip-like shadow cut through the darkness of the vast room, slicing through the atmosphere. Against the howling wind, it viciously whipped towards Noah's direction. However, before the sound of the wind could be heard, Noah's sensing ability had already been triggered. The moment he stopped in his tracks, his figure was like a shadow as he retreated rapidly. Pang! The whip-like shadow heavily fell on the position where Noah was a second ago. With a muffled sound, it directly smashed the ground there. When Noah, who had retreated rapidly, saw the true face of the whip shadow, his eyes hidden under the hood congealed. Caw, 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 caw. The cold blades that were connected together like the scales of a snake drew an arc in the air. Amidst a series of mechanical sounds, they combined together one after another and returned to the hands of the owner who held the hilt. That was a snake belly sword. The owner holding the snake belly sword was naturally Moonlit Glass Rabbit, who was wearing a mixture of a maid's uniform and a bunny girl's uniform. She wore rabbit ears on her head and had a sadistic smile on her face. Ha! I didn't think that there would be someone who could sneak into this place without alerting the tomb guardians. Standing on a counter and looking down at Noah, Eugenli too laughed out loud. His laughter was extremely wild. Hey! Who are you? Noah didn't speak. He buried his face in the hood of the jacket he was wearing. With the cover of the surrounding darkness and the hood, he hid his true identity. Noah knew that in the place closest to the world fragment, the Dawn organization shouldn't really only arrange 2 guards at the door. There must be other precautions inside. However, Noah didn't expect that this precaution was actually Moonlit Glass Rabbit. Keep silent. Seeing Noah standing in the same place without making a sound and not running away because he was discovered, Moonlit Glass Rabbit raised her eyebrows and the corner of her mouth hooked up in an interesting arc. Well, it doesn't matter. After I take you down, I'll see enough for myself. After saying that, Moonlit Glass Rabbit's figure turned into a stream of light. Holding the snake belly sword in her hand, before she arrived in front of Noah, the snake belly sword in her hand blew up the air and heavily chopped towards Noah. With this chop, wherever the snake belly sword passed, the air seemed to be directly shattered and annihilated. The snake belly sword carried a huge amount of pressure and mercilessly fell towards Noah's body. Looking at the snake belly sword that suddenly chopped towards him as if it didn't want to take him down, but rather kill him, and the arrogant smile on Moonlit Glass Rabbit's face, Noah completely calmed down. Moonlit Glass Rabbit was a level V level surpasser. With the power of Moonlit Glass Rabbit's snake belly sword, a normal level 4, even if it was a level 4, without 4 or 5 people attacking together, it was impossible for them to be Moonlit Glass Rabbit's opponent. However, Noah had already defeated Moonlit Glass Rabbit once when he was at level 1. Although he relied on the power of Annihilation Strike and Leap to win against Moonlit Glass Rabbit's carelessness, Noah was no longer the level 1 from before. Without releasing the power of Limit, Noah was a level 4 level surpasser. Now, even if it was a direct confrontation, Noah was not afraid of Moonlit Glass Rabbit at all. However, it was not to the point of fighting Moonlit Glass Rabbit empty-handed. If he wanted to defeat Moonlit Glass Rabbit cleanly, he either had to release the power of limit or use the blaze. If he used the revolver, Noah's deliberately hidden identity would be exposed. Therefore, if he didn't want to expose his identity and wanted to retrieve the world fragment, the wisest thing to do was to release the power of limit. If Moonlit Glass Rabbit directly issued an alarm and called all the tomb protectors in the hotel over, Noah would definitely do so. However, when Noah used his sensing ability to scan the surroundings and found that Moonlit Glass Rabbit had no intention of calling anyone, Noah's mind suddenly became active. He wanted to test his own power. He wanted to test the power of his other blaze. Driven by this thought, Noah stretched out his hand and pressed it on his chest. When the bright star pattern appeared on Noah's chest, Moonlit Glass Rabbit's pupils suddenly shrank. Blaze! Amidst the heavy call, a pale blue flame burst out from Noah's body. In the next moment, within the blue flame, a completely black sword with white patterns on the sword fell into Noah's hand. Knight's Sword. At the moment of imminent peril, the Knight's Sword and the Snake Belly Sword were raised and slashed, each containing a ferocious force as they collided together. Clang! The sound of steel colliding with steel rang out. A burst of violent shock waves swept out, blowing in all directions. Noah, who was holding the Knight's Sword, and Moonlit Glass Rabbit, who was holding the Snake Belly Sword, were both pushed back by the force of the collision. Both of their feet fiercely stomped on the ground, and with a dang-dang sound, both of them were pushed back. After putting some distance between them, the two of them forcibly stopped their bodies at the same time and came to a standstill. Facing each other from a distance, Noah, whose face was covered by a hoodie, had a calm expression on his face. Moonlit Glass Rabbit, on the other hand, tightened his grip on the Snake Belly Sword. The arrogant smile on his face disappeared as he stared at Noah with a gloomy expression. Who are you? You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.